Roll call.
Commissioner Jordan, we have as absent. Commissioner Baez,
Present.
Commissioner Purdy,
Present.
Commissioner Timmons,
Present.
Commissioner Scott Roundtree,
Yes.
Go.
she said yes, okay. Commissioner De Silva,
Here.
Commissioner James, we have as absent. Co-chair Richard,
Here.
Chair Richardson,
Here.
we have a quorum, Chair.
All right, so I won't adjourn that number 5 just yet because he has more. So we'll just wait till we get to him.
Okay.
All right, let's start with CPB 21-09. 490-492 South 11th Street. Ms. Perez. And it's just an extension.
Good evening.
Floor is yours.
Great. Good evening, everyone. Jennifer Carrillo Perez of Connell Foley on behalf of Bluestone Properties LLC for CPB 21-09. By letter dated September 26th, my office did submit to your board a request for a 2-year extension for a period of 2 years. The approvals on this application were secured on May 3rd, 2021, and the resolution adopted May 17th of 2021. To date, they have not sought any extensions. This would be the first set of extensions, and they did receive compliance approval. So now we are just waiting for some bond calculations and to post that to proceed with the permitting. And so we respectfully submit the request for the extension for a 2-year period just to get us through permitting and so that we can begin construction on the project. Thank you.
Commissioners, any questions or comments about the extension? Hearing none. Any comments from the public?
Seeing none at this time, Chair.
In that case, I need a motion.
Motion to move.
Seconded.
Moved by Commissioner Purdy, second by Co-Chair Witcher. Roll call, Madam Secretary.
Commissioner Baez,
Yes.
Commissioner Purdy,
Yes.
Commissioner Timmons,
Yes.
Commissioner De Silva,
Yes.
Commissioner Scott Roundtree,
Absent.
Co-chair Richard,
Yes.
Chair Richardson.
Yes, the extension has been approved. Let's move to CPB 21-10.
I just want to note, Chair Richardson, that Commissioner James has joined us.
Okay, excellent. CPB 21-10 is 439-441 South 10th Street. Ms. Perez, this is also an extension.
Correct. Thank you. Again, Jennifer Carrillo Perez for the record on behalf of Bluestone Properties LLC, CPB 2110. This is 439-441 South 10th Street. Again, the applicant here secured their approvals the same time frame as the prior application, May 3rd, 2021, resolution adopted May 17th. We have not requested any extensions. This would be our first request for an extension. And this applicant has also secured compliance approval from the city. So we are just looking for the extension to get us to the point of permitting so that we can proceed. And so I'll entertain any questions, but they are prepared to move forward at this point.
Commissioners, any questions or comments? Hearing none. Any questions or comments from the public?
Seeing none at this time, Chair.
In that case, I need a motion.
Moving it.
Second.
Seconded.
Moved by Commissioner Baez, second by Commissioner Purdy. Roll call, Madam Secretary.
So,
I think that was Commissioner De Silva.
Oh,
Chair
okay.
Richardson.
I think they were both, but it's okay. Don't fight over it. Let's go.
We're going Purdy for the second.
Nah, it's a De Silva. It's fine.
Okay.
I'm sure Purdy doesn't mind.
Commissioner Curtis gonna get?
Commissioner Timmons,
Yes.
Commissioner Baez,
Yes.
Commissioner Purdy,
Yes.
Commissioner De Silva,
yes.
Commissioner Scott Roundtree,
Absent.
Commissioner James,
Yes.
Co-Chair Witcher,
Yes.
Chair Richardson.
Yes. What you laughing at, Co-Chair?
Thank you. Have a good evening.
Have a good night.
Okay, let's move. This is a new application. Let's move to CBB 24-30, which is 854 Clinton Avenue. Subdivision.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening. Floor is yours.
Thank you. Dominic Iannarella appearing on behalf of the owner, Imperial Car Wash Incorporated, looking to apply to the board for a minor subdivision. We're not seeking any variances. Essentially, it's an irregular lot. You have a copy of the survey, and it would create really a more streamlined use of the two properties by effectuating the subdivision on it. So the owner wanted to put the plan forward, and we're hoping that the board agrees with us that by making the subdivision, it would be a little more of a streamlined use for the neighborhood, for the owner overall.
Is it going to remain a car wash?
The proposed lot 32.01, yeah, would remain a car wash, yes.
Okay.
The 32.02 would be just a separate lot that he would potentially put a house on at some point, or just keep it as it is. But
And that particular car lot is the one that's been shuttered for some time?
I'm sorry?
It's not in use right now, or is it?
The rear end by Beverly is not in use, correct?
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Commissioners, any questions or comments? Hearing none. Any questions or comments from the public?
Mr. Chair, before you go to the public, I have one.
Yes, sir.
Right.
Mr. Barrett, let's get him sworn in, Mr. Beck.
Mr. Barrett, you solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give this board should be truthful?
I do.
Thank you. You may proceed.
Thanks. John Barry, planner for the board. Mr. Chair, members of the board, Mr. Iannarella, I just wanted to clarify for the record, although no development is being proposed, technically by way of the subdivision will be creating two lots that exceed the maximum permitted impervious coverage. So there's a technical variance that's required, nothing that is impactful because it's really just moving lines on a map. But I just wanted to make sure that that was clear for the record, and so that the applicant doesn't run into trouble moving forward.
Thank you, Mr. Barrett.
You're welcome.
Madam Secretary, any persons from the public wishing to speak?
No, not at this time, Chair.
In that case, I need a motion on the subdivision.
Let's move it.
Moved by Commissioner Purdy,
Seconded.
second by Co-Chair Richard. Roll call, Madam Secretary.
Commissioner Baez,
Yes.
Commissioner De Silva,
Yes.
Commissioner Purdy,
Yes.
Commissioner Clemens,
Yes.
Commissioner Scott Roundtree,
Absent.
Commissioner James,
Yes.
Co-Chair Witcher,
Yes.
Chair Richardson.
Yes.
Just for the record, Chair, Commissioner Jordan has joined us.
Excellent. Okay, let's move to CPB 24-57, which is 152-164 Rutherford Street. Mr. Webster.
Should be rejoined. There we go.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Arthur Webster, partner of the law firm of Connell Foley, located at 185 Raymond Boulevard, Newark, New Jersey. I represent the applicant 152 Rutherford Street Urban Renewal LLC, an application before you this evening. The applicant is a designated redeveloper of a city-owned property known as Lot 20, Block 5056, located at 152-164 Rutherford Street. The applicant is seeking preliminary and final site plan for container storage and a conditional use approval for truck, tractor, trailer, and heavy vehicle parking or storage with bulk relief. The use is being proposed in accordance with the redevelopment agreement between the city and 152 Rutherford. We've been working on that for quite a while. Notice this application was provided more than 10 days prior to the hearing to the newspaper record, the Star Ledger. All owners of property within 200 feet in all directions have been notified, as have a number of utilities and public entities. The applicant is designated redeveloper of the property pursuant to the terms executed with the redevelopment agreement with the city of Newark, and city council has voted on that and affirmed that. Per the terms of the agreement, the city will vacate Curry Street, the entire 60 feet in width, and deed the right of way to 152 Rutherford as part of the project, making the combined area just under 2 acres, about 1.89 acres. The site is located in Newark's I-3 heavy industrial area. 152 Rutherford is basically at the end of a dead-end street that backs up to Passaic Valley. Nothing going on there, and you'll see in the planners report, and you'll see in some of our presentation that it's overgrown with weeds and looks like a little bit of a no man's land. We're proposing to pave the property to accommodate truck and tractor trailer parking. As you know, that's a big use in this part of town. There are a total of 27 truck parking spaces and 25 trailer container storage spaces proposed, so not a large project by any means. There are also 4 9-foot wide, 18-foot long standard electric vehicle parking spaces proposed for folks that may work there. Shipping container storage is permitted within the zone, while truck parking or storage is a conditional use. We propose to meet all those conditions. Our engineer this evening will testify the proposed project meets all the conditions, and the truck parking use included installing a 5-foot fence, planting the requisite number of on-site trees. The applicant is also agreeing to reduce the two-way driveway from 36 that's on the plan to 35, which is required per our conversation with Mr. Barry. There are no yard trucks proposed at the site. The applicant will install the requisite security cameras throughout the site and make them available to whoever needs them whenever they need them. In connection with this application, the applicant is seeking design waivers for insufficient shading, in the parking lot and insufficient on-site front yard trees. I'm in receipt of a number of letters from the city's professionals. I've received a completeness memo dated August 9th, 2024, an engineering memo dated September 10th, 2024, a planning review memo dated October 15th, 2004, and a water and sewer review memo dated October 18th, 2024. We have reviewed the reports and complied with the comments received, except for any reference to the need to written approval of outside agencies. We've put all those agencies on notice, the DEP, the Turnpike, and they're not here this evening, and they haven't submitted any requests for us to modify or do anything. And as this board is aware, those agencies don't give out negative letters. They don't give out positive letters. They only give out negative letters. So I'm asking this condition in the letters that are being asked by the engineering department not be required, as we've gone through this before, and they will never come. Witnesses with me tonight are 2, Badman Izmadar and John McDonough. Both of these folks have appeared before you on numerous occasions. So with that, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to bring up my site civil engineer, Mr. Badman Izmadar.
Let's do it.
Good evening.
Get him sworn in.
Good evening, Mr. Isidore. You solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give this board shall be truthful?
Yes, I do.
Thank you. Please state your name and affiliation for the record.
Sure. My name is Baman Izadmer. It's spelled Bahman. Last name Izadmehr. I'm the site and civil engineer for the project. I am a principal with Development Engineering LLC.
Mr. Chairman, Mr. Izmadar has been a long-time witness here, and his credentials are still in effect, and his licenses and credentials are in good standing with the state of New Jersey.
Then you're accepted by the board. Please continue.
Thank you.
Mr. Izmadar, would you do me a favor and share your screen, and just let's walk our board real quick through what we're going to do here this evening.
Hey, Richardson, if I may, Mr. Webster or Mr. Izamir, if you guys could just confirm the date of your plans before presenting.
Yes, absolutely.
Thank you.
Yeah. Let me do this. The date on the plans are can barely see it, 1/16/24.
And those plans have been submitted to your office, Ms. Evans Pearson.
Thank you.
Sure. So I'm gonna basically start on the site plan. And as you can see in the zoning chart, we basically meet all the requirements except the parking shade trees. So I'll now focus on the site plan itself. As it was alluded by our council, the property is located on Rutherford Street, basically almost at the dead end portion of the Rutherford. Rutherford here extends west-northerly from Delancey Street, and is bounded by I-95 or New Jersey Turnpike. And then to our right, basically, or to the east, is a property which I believe is owned by Passaic Valley Water Sewer Commission. And then next to it, there is another property which was recently approved for a similar use. And across the street, it's another newly developed site with warehouses. So basically, this zone is heavily industrial, and we are proposing to utilize this site to provide, I believe, 27 truck parking spaces, ranging from any size from 40 to 55 to even 60 foot long, and also 25 spaces for a storage, for basically all kind of storages that we can afford in this property.
And based upon height requirements, Ms. Ismadar, how many containers could actually be stored there?
We are proposing 25 container spaces, and the regulation or the zoning ordinance allows up to 4 stacks. So if we do 4 at all locations we are proposing, there will be maximum of 100 containers.
Thank you.
That could be stored in this property.
Thank you.
And you are welcome. And we have provided also buffer zones all around in the perimeter of the parking, and with a single driveway that unfortunately it was a typo. Instead of 35, it shows 36, but it will be 35 foot, a 2-way driveway off of Rutherford Street. And we are providing lighting poles within the site, as well as a complete drainage system. So we've been basically gotten positive comments from Department of Engineering about our drainage and about our lighting. And in order to provide shade tree along Rutherford, we have about 216 linear feet of frontage. So the ordinance requires basically every 35 feet shade tree. So based on that calculation, we are required to provide a little more than 6, so we are providing 7. And then within the site, the zone requires 1 tree for every 25 feet of frontage. And again, being 216 feet in frontage, we are providing over 20 shade trees, even though we are required to provide 9. And then we have landscaping, 10 feet or higher, all around the property. And on top of that, we also providing 4 parking spaces. Unfortunately, we missed the handicap space that we will be adding to those 4 spaces. So we'll bring them up either to 4 or 5 auto spaces. And those spaces are equipped with electric chargers. So that's another environmental benefit for the site. As I said about drainage, we are providing complete drainage and lighting. And the council also mentioned that we will be providing cameras for security of the site. So those cameras could be installed on the lighting poles. Therefore, we would not be using excessive number of poles at the site. So we will use the same pole both for lighting fixtures as well as for cameras. And the site will have a fence in its perimeter. Again, one of the conditional use requirement was not to have more than 5 foot of a fence. So the fence in the front yard will be decorative, solid fence, and it will be extended throughout the whole site, in the perimeter of the site. So basically, that's about it. And the site will be paved with proper asphalt. And we will try to basically have an asphalt system that will have lesser impact on the environment. In terms of utilities, we are not really proposing any water or gas or sewer utilities, because we have really no structure on the property. The only utility that we will be utilizing is electricity. So we will have electric service from PSE&G through Rutherford Street to the site. That will basically utilize for possibly internet as well as lighting and cameras. So that's all I have. If there are any questions, I would be more than glad to attempt to answer them.
Mr. Ismail, I just have a couple redirect questions.
Sure.
Just tell me where we're going to put the trash containers.
We do not really expect any trash, but you can see on the upper right corner, there is a square. I don't know if you can see my cursor here.
Yes.
Okay, in this area, we have a basically a 40 feet by 40 feet space, or even more maybe. And that's where we could install our trash enclosure.
So if we need to, we can install trash and recycling in that area, and we would propose.
That's correct.
2 5x5 dumpsters. Is that the plan?
Yeah, I mean, we don't really expect any trash because there will be no active, operations here that will generate trash or recycling material. But in case if there is a need for a driver to drop their trash, then we will have it there.
And will we be able to comply with the requirements for lighting at the property lines? Is that something we can do?
Yes, we can.
The last thing I have is that this discussion about the sidewalk. The city is asking us to put in a sidewalk on Rutherford Street.
Yes.
And talk to me about why that's problematic.
Well, as a matter of fact, I had a phone conversation with Mr. Charlie Trafficante of the Department of Engineering, and I explained that to him, that this is basically a dead-end road and is not really leading to anywhere that will warrant or require a sidewalk. So therefore, we don't really see a need for a sidewalk. And also we have some issue all toward the northwesterly side of Rutherford. Basically, there is a steep slope in that area, so it won't really warrant a sidewalk. But if the sidewalk would be warranted, and if it could be utilized by basically pedestrian, it would be from the driveway to the basically to the property line, which is not that much. I mean, it's about 50 feet. And the rest of the property, the rest of the roadway, it's occupied by another neighboring lot. So I guess even though if we provide a sidewalk, it would not be more than 50, 60 feet to the driveway.
I have no more questions for this witness, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Trafficante, I see you have your hand up. Let's get him in, get him sworn in, Mr. Beck.
Good evening, Mr. Trafficante. Do you solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give this board shall be truthful?
I do.
Thank you. Is your license still current?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay. Dr. Ismail, you came up with a frontage of 216 linear feet. Does that include the vacated portion of Curry Street?
Yes, it does.
It does. All right. All right, because our office came up with like over 290 linear feet. Now, we might have overestimated, but to err on the side of safe than sorry.
Yes.
Would you be willing, or would your client be willing to meet with the city surveyor and the Department of Engineering and anyone else who needs to be in attendance from the board, determine the actual frontage of this lot after the vacation of Curry Street. If it comes up to the 216, then so be it. 7 trees is all that's needed. But if it exceeds that and it's anywhere near 290, you need another tree.
We will be more than glad to meet with anybody, including yourself, Mr. Trafganti. And as we discussed over the phone, we will also meet with your arborist and the planner and the Department of Engineering to discuss the parking lot shade trees.
All right, and the city surveyor regarding the determination of actual frontage.
Sure,
Okay. Now
by
you
all
mentioned,
means.
all right. Now you mentioned sidewalks. Engineering believes there's a need for it for pedestrians, whether it's somebody walking to work or coming home from work. If they leave, they don't even have a vehicle, they can drive home. If they're dropping off a trailer, or if they get a ride from a driver. The intent is to provide a safe passage for pedestrian foot traffic, which is why the request for not just sidewalks, but curbs. All right, and again, as another condition, would you be willing to meet with the Director of Engineering, Traffic and Signals, Department of Engineering to discuss this matter further? Should it be determined that there is a warrant for sidewalks and sidewalks, we will definitely.
Yes, we will.
All right, all right. Otherwise, can you comply with all the other comments in the engineering report to the board dated September 10th, 2024?
Yes, we will.
Okay. Last item, you're asking for 2 items to be waived. One, I believe, is item 2-3, which is a letter of approval from the New Jersey Turnpike Authority, which is Route 95.
Correct.
All right. Well, there was a fence, existing fence that, according to the survey, goes into the public right of way for Route 95.
It will be removed and the new fence will be constructed on our property.
But don't you need to consult with the New Jersey Turnpike Authority to make sure they're in agreement before they come back and tell you you're still on their property?
It's right on the property line. I don't think there's going to be an issue. We've noticed them for this evening's meeting, and they can see what we have. We've described that we're going to remove the fence and put up a new fence. I think if they had an issue, they would be here.
All right, well, I don't know. I can't speak for them, but I would think it'd be remiss if I don't recommend to the board that something be obtained from the, New Jersey Turnpike, since you do front their property, you do have a fence that encroaches into their right of way, and it only makes sense that you get something from them.
Mr. Trafficante, you and I both know that they will not respond to us. We've gone through this. It's expensive, it's time consuming, and they don't respond. So I don't want my client to have to do that. I will, if there's a piece of fence on their property and we can't take it down because it's on their property, then I'll leave it there and just put a fence inside on our property. I mean, I'm not going to touch their property if that's what you're concerned about. I'm happy to stipulate to that. But the reality is that in all practical senses, the fence should be taken down. It's on the property line, and it should be, and a fence should be constructed properly just inside our property line. But I'm not going to jump through 15 hoops to get the Turnpike to do something they're not going to do. I'm not going to spend 4 months and $30,000 chasing down the Turnpike Authority to give me nothing. It's not fair. We've done this dance before, and they never respond.
All right, Mr. Webster, how about you get a licensed land surveyor to set monuments on your corners? Get them surveyed, certified by a licensed land surveyor, establish where your property line is. And this way, there's something that protects this board from any issues with the Turnpike Authority. Should you find the new fence encroaches back onto their property, there's at least somebody there on your behalf who did.
I'm happy to have my surveyor mark the property line and to ensure that I build on my property.
And establish property corners, set corners, monuments in the field.
Okay, I'm willing to do that.
Okay, last issue. I believe the surveyor or one of the plans indicated something about possible wetlands. This is where the DEP comes in. I think that's why item number 7, Roman numeral 3, excuse me. Item number 7, Roman numeral 2. Okay. Construction location of the breach form scour hole from the outlet control structure must be approved by the Department of Environmental Protection. All right, again, that's My stormwater engineer asking for certification from the DEP since it has to be constructed in accordance with DEP standards for a scour hole.
We agree and we will comply, Charlie.
All right. No further questions. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Trafficante. Commissioners, any questions for this witness?
Question.
Commissioner Jordan.
I heard you only had 2 speakers. So the warehouse, what is the purpose of the warehouse?
The warehouse is not part of this current plan. The warehouse was a prior plan. We've modified this plan. This plan has no warehouse. It just has surface parking, Ms. Jordan.
So who is going to manage the truck parking? And is this public truck parking?
No, it'll be leased out to a tenant and they will either stack containers or park trucks or both.
So would the trucks be the leasee's trucks?
We don't know. We haven't entered into an agreement with the operator yet.
And okay, so you're aware that the city has a municipal commercial truck stop ordinance and a container ordinance, but yet and still you don't know who the person is going to be, and you don't have any place where someone can manage the truck stop or the containers. They're just going to be there by themselves.
No, so no. That's not, no. So my statement to the board is that at some point we will have a tenant, and that tenant will operate according to law, which in Newark requires them to register and get a license to do one or both of those activities. And then they will be responsible for compliance with the registration and all the taxes that are associated with that usage. And if not, I'm sure we'll see, code enforcement knocking on their door.
But that would mean that there would have to be a trailer or a building for the truck stop and the container yard. It can't just be a truck stop and container yard with no management.
I'm not sure what you mean when you say management.
Like you have no one there. It's only a truck stop or container yard, but there isn't a building that is going to have at least one person at the site.
Yes, that's correct.
Yeah, I don't know if that. I'm not sure that
there's no building
that can happen.
Yeah, there's no building that's required to be associated with that use per the code. The responsible party will have to coordinate how that happens. I'm not sure how they'll do it, but right now we don't have a plan. If somebody wants to come in and have to put in a trailer to have someone there managing the yard, then they'll have to, that tenant will have to come in and make an application to this board for those approvals. But right now we're not putting anything in, and we're not putting any sewer, we're not putting any water connections. So, they'll have to figure out how to deal with it. We're not proposing a trailer be put in this parcel. We believe that based upon market conditions that we can lease this property without a trailer.
Commissioner Jordan?
Okay, I heard him.
Okay. Okay. All right, next witness.
My last witness this evening is John McDonough from McDonough Planning.
Good evening, Mr. McDonough. Do you
Good evening, Mr. Beck.
Do you solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give this board shall be truthful?
Yes, I do.
Thank you. Please state your name and affiliation for the record.
Hi, everyone. My name is John McDonough, and I am the project planner.
Your license still current, sir?
It is, Mr. Chairman.
You're accepted by the board. Please continue.
John, I know you've had some chance to read Mr. Barry's plan, his analysis, I'm sorry.
Yes, I did.
Also, I know you've had a chance to prepare an analysis yourself. So would you please share your screen and walk the board through kind of where this thing is, and let's give folks an orientation as to what we're trying to do here.
Sure thing. And Mr. Chair, I'm just going to use a Google image here. We were not able to fly the drone out there because of the proximity to the airport. I'll wait for it to populate. Okay, there it is. So we flagged the subject property, which
John,
is this.
John, let's just mark this as an exhibit. This will be applicant's A1 for Ms. Evans Pearson, and just give me a description of what this is.
This is a Google image of the subject site and surrounding land use context, with north being straight up. And again, the intent is to give a sense of the condition of the property and the surrounding land use context.
Thank you.
Okay, so you can see it's a triangular shaped lot at the end of Rutherford Street. We'll just zoom in for a second here. You can see that there's a transformation taking place in the area with new warehouse development. And obviously that's a spinoff of the excellent connectivity that this general location has to the regional highway network. Panning back again, we're at the junction of the Turnpike, Route 78, Route 9, to the ports, and of course to the airport, which is just off screen here to the lower left. And of course, you can see we're part of a vast industrialized area, which includes warehouses, which includes container storage, particularly over at the Interport facility, which is right across the way. And again, a number of industrial type uses as well. So this site is well suited for the development that is before the board. It is an irregular shaped piece of property, again, at the terminus of Rutherford Street. And just to give you a ground view of what that looks like. Again, transforming with, I'm going to come back to it. This is what it was before the warehouse was built. And that's what it looks like now with the warehouse built. You can see there's a sidewalk system, but it ends at Delancey. It does not continue to the subject site, which is at the terminus of Rutherford. And it's that grassy area that you see in the background. That's where the truck storage is proposed. This building, this hangar building that you see on the right there, is not part of the subject application or the subject site. It's on a totally different site. So the site's well suited for truck storage. It's an irregular shaped piece of property. It's sort of remote. It's proximate to the highway and the surrounding industrial uses. This becomes a critical link in the logistics supply chain to have these containers, these trailers, and these trucks readily available to support the industry in the area. Towards Commissioner Jordan's question about how will this be managed, I think suffice it to say it will be managed as any parking lot in the city of Newark with a single entity, a responsible party, which will certainly be identified for the city, a point of contact to ensure that the property will flow, function, and operate safely and efficiently. We're here in the I-3 zone district where the use is conditionally permitted. The applicant is not asking any relief from any of the conditional use standards. In fact, in terms of all the requirements, the applicant complies, but for, as you heard through Bauman's testimony, the insufficient parking lot shading requirement. In the interest of providing for parking and maneuverability on the interior of the site, we're looking to maintain trees on the perimeter that will expose the site from a parking lot shading standpoint. We think the relief meets the standard of reasonableness and appropriateness, where the benefits of the application as a whole would substantially outweigh any detriments. Again, it is a site in an industrialized area with not many options for redevelopment or repurposing. So we think it's a good pocket for the use that is before the board. Again, the relief is reasonable and appropriate here, and the benefits of the application as a whole would substantially outweigh any detriments that would be associated with the lack of parking lot shading at this particular location. All said, it's a good application from a planning standpoint, a relatively distinct and unique site. We think it works well for the use that's before the board, and most importantly, for the minimal relief that the applicant is seeking from here in the I-3 zone district. The criteria are certainly met and approval is warranted. And with that, I'll stop share and pause on direct.
I have no further questions, Mr. Chairman.
Commissioners, any questions or comments?
Chair, I'd like to ask.
Co-chair with you.
Thank you, Chair. I want to follow up with the idea that Commissioner Jordan raised. I heard you say, Mr. McDonough, that it might be operated as most parking lots are operated. Most parking lots, even the ones that have, automation, have an attendant. So I'm still wondering exactly how this, would function from day to day. But, and related to that, if there's an attendant, they need toileting and water and such. So if you could reply to that, thank you.
Honestly, Commissioner, I do not know if there will be an attendant here. Again, as I say, it'll be operated as a typical parking lot here in the city where there will be a single point of contact, a responsible party, a responsible entity. But I just don't know if there will actually be an attendant appointed here.
Commissioner Witcher, this is Leonardo. There are many parking lots that don't have any attendants. They are, for instance, if they're one large company, they just have assigned parking and they just have the people go in and out. It's not necessarily a parking lot for a whole bunch of different truckers who need to have assigned spaces or whatnot. It could be for a fleet, and that fleet could, park everywhere. I mean, we have Hertz that has no attendant. We have probably 100 acres of parking in the city that has no attendants for all the airport overflow parking. So there's plenty of parking lots that have no attendants. Now, and I'm not talking about the airport parking for people who are pulling in and pulling out. I'm talking about the car fleets. I'm talking about the truck fleets. Hertz, Herc, the tractor trailer folks. All those parking lots have no attendants.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Co-Chair. Commissioners, any other questions or comments? Hearing none. Any questions or comments from the public?
Seeing none at this time, Chair.
In that case, I need a motion.
Move it.
Moved by Commissioner Purdy,
Second.
second by Commissioner James. Roll call, Madam Secretary.
Commissioner Jordan,
Abstain.
Commissioner Purdy,
Yes.
What do you
Commissioner
want me to
Baez,
do?
Commissioner Baez,
No.
Commissioner Timmons, Commissioner Timmons,
Yes.
Commissioner De Silva,
Yes.
Commissioner Scott Roundtree, Commissioner Scott Roundtree,
Froze.
He's a yes.
Yes. Yes.
Commissioner James,
Yes.
Co-Chair Witcher,
Yes.
Chair Richardson.
Yes, your application has been approved. Mr. Webster, you're losing a lot of weight, man. You're gonna be small as Mo Butler next time.
Mr. Chairman, my question though is how does Mr. James's beard stay incredibly dark? That's all I want to know this evening.
They got products for that.
His beard is very, very, very brown. That's all I'm saying. My beard is not that brown.
I'm not as old as you, brother. I'm not. I'm getting there. I'm getting there.
Have a good night, everyone. Thank you for your time.
Mr. Chairman, thank you. Good night.
Okay, let's move to CPB 24-58. 53-55 Fabian Place. Mr. Veloz.
Good evening, everyone. Mr. Chairman, good evening. Noemi Velozi on CPB 24-58. Mr. Chairman, I actually need an adjournment on this one. A sliver of the property tax map has, except for that one residence in Irvington, so we need to notify that resident.
Okay. Madam Secretary,
the next available
next
date.
meeting is going to be, I think, for you, I think we decided December 2nd. Nothing for you in November. Mr. Veloz,
Thank you, Mr.
you're
Chairman.
freezing, my friend. Did you hear me?
I did, thank you.
December 2nd, okay. All right, next.
Just so we have on record, we're gonna preserve the Newark notices. You just.
Yes, notice will be preserved. Thank you, Madam Secretary. Let's move to CPB 24-63, which is 45 Cosset Street. Mr. Veloz.
Once again, good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Noemi Velozi on behalf of CPB 24-63 for the applicants Jaime and Ines DeCunha, properties at 45 Cassuth Street, and I need my professionals. I'm looking for Mr. Gennaro and also my engineer. John.
They're both on, Mr. Veloz.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. If we can have Mr. Manillo sworn in, please.
Mr. Beck.
Good evening. Do you solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give this board shall be truthful?
I do.
Thank you. Please state your name and affiliation to this record.
Sure. Legal name is Giovanni, Giovanni. Last name Manilio, Manilio. Principal at Mantera Design and the civil engineer on this project.
Mr. Manilio, could you give us your background and advise us if your license is current?
Sure. So I have a Bachelor in Science in Civil Engineering from Syracuse University. I've been licensed in the state for the past 16 years, licensed in good standing. Testified in front of this board numerous times and in front of the planning board numerous times as well.
Yeah, and you're this is the planning board, but your license is you're accepted by the board. Please continue.
Yep.
Mr. Manilio, did you review the October 21st water report from the water and sewer?
I did.
And we're going to be able to change the plans to comply with same?
Correct. That is correct.
And you've also reviewed the engineering report dated September 26th?
Yep, and I had a chance to speak with Mr. Trafficante as well, and we have no objections to any of those comments.
Okay. If you could take us through your presentation, sir?
Sure. Let me just share my screen. Can everybody see my screen?
Not yet. Now we can.
Thank you. So I'm going to refer to our site plans that were submitted as part of the application, entitled 45 Kossuth Street, with a date of April 26, 2024, last revised June 7th, 2024. No changes have been made to the plans that I'm going to be speaking about tonight. I'm going to refer to page 2, which shows a side-by-side of the existing conditions and proposed conditions. I'll briefly go through what's existing on the site and what's being proposed. So as explained earlier, the address is 45 Kossuth Street, block 2080, lot 23, located in the R3 zone, which permits 1 to 4 families and townhouse residential. The lot is approximately 25 feet in width and 100 feet deep, with a lot area of 2,500 square feet. The property currently consists of a 2-family dwelling, with the current dwelling actually encroaching within the front setback with the dwelling and the front porch as well. There is no off-street parking currently today. I do want to note that the property is not in a flood zone and there's no environmental constraints that we're aware of. Next, I'll go over the proposal for the project, which is shown right here in the middle of the screen. So what's being proposed is to construct a 3-story, 3-family dwelling with an attached garage. The dwelling is roughly 21 feet in width and 69 feet in depth. It does include a small little overhang for the second floor in the front of 1 foot and an overhang for the upper stories as well in the rear of about 3 feet. In the original submission, which you're looking at right now, we had a 1-car garage with a driveway in front of it that was 17.4 feet. In lieu of, I guess, some ordinance changes in the past couple months with the parking requirements for 1 to 4 families and comments that we received regarding the variances that we're asking for. We did speak with the applicant, and we're willing to reduce the driveway width to 10 feet in width, which will reduce the design waiver for the driveway width. Will still keep us in conformance with the parking requirements. With the new parking requirements, 2 spaces are required and 2 will be provided. And additionally, it will provide us with additional green space for landscaping in the front and reduce the impervious coverage from approximately from 80% to approximately 76%. So the house has been shifted. So the current house is, like I mentioned earlier, is encroaching into the right of way. We placed the house at 17 feet to the overhang and 18 feet to the main portion of the house. As you can see in the plans, the house to the right, to the main portion of the house is 17 feet, and the one to the left is 19 feet. We do have a front porch and steps that protrude into the front yard with a setback of 8 feet. The neighboring property's porch is approximately 11.2 feet. I mentioned that. Other site improvements that we are proposing, so under the front porch, there'll be an area for one refuse and one recycling. As mentioned in, I believe, both the engineer and planners report, additional refuse and recycling is being requested, and we have no issues providing that in the rear over here by the condensers, AC condensers, which we feel like we have plenty of room to add 4 more containers, and we'll screen it as well. So that will provide sufficient refuse and recycling for the units. As far as fencing, we are proposing a fence along the side and rear, and it actually will end here. Our plans show a fence along the property line, but there's really no need for it since we are half a foot from the property line. And that will be a 5-foot white vinyl privacy fence, and we'll revise the plans to show the same. We did provide lighting along the frontage and side of the building, which was a little over what's permitted by ordinance. We will make those revisions to make sure that we conform with the lighting requirements for the city. Additionally, we are planting 1 on-site tree in the rear of the property, which is in conformance with the ordinance. And in the front, it looks like we don't have a lot of room to plant a shade tree, but we will work with the city arborist, and if we can find a location for it, we will plant it. If not, the applicant has no issues with paying into the tree bank. That's pretty much the proposal. I'll just go through real quick on conformance. The property conforms with lot area, 2,500 square feet is required, 2,500 square feet is proposed. We conform with lot width, 25 feet is proposed and 25 feet is required. Building height, 3 stories is proposed and 3 stories is required or permitted. Building height is about 33.4, where 36 is permitted. I believe we do comply with the front yard setback, but there is another section in the ordinance which states that front porches and steps can't protrude into the front yard by more than 5 feet. Given that we have a garage under, the front porch and steps actually comes out 9 feet. So we are asking for relief on that. Side yard on the, I guess, east side of the dwelling, we are proposing a setback of 0.5 feet, where the ordinance requires either 0 feet or 3 feet. And the reason for the 0.5 is if we were to put it right at the property line, we could, I guess, cause a building code violation for the neighbor next door for fire code and building code, where you need a 3-foot separation. So that's why we held the 0.5 feet, and we think that kind of meets the intent of the ordinance. Rear yard, 14 feet is requested, where 30 feet is required. And as you can see with the adjacent neighbors, I don't think we're too far off from what was existing on either side. We comply with the building coverage, slightly under 55%. Lot impervious coverage, as mentioned earlier, will drop from 80% to 75.9%, and 70% is required, which would still be a variance. I'll have the architect speak about the transparencies, but we believe we comply with the transparency requirements. And I spoke about the shade tree. We're going to eliminate that variance and eliminate the illumination variance as well. And we are eliminating the design waiver for the driveway, which we reduced to 10 feet. That concludes my testimony. If there's any questions by the board or any questions by council.
Thank you, Mr. Manilio. Mr. Chairman, I don't have any other questions of Mr. Manilio.
Okay, commissioners, questions or comments? Hearing none. Next witness.
If we can have Mr. Gennaro sworn in.
Can we have the screen back?
Yep, 1 second. There you go.
Thank you. Good evening, Mr. Gennaro. Do you solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give shall be truthful?
One, here, Richard, I'm sorry, Mr. Beck, he's not on.
Where'd he go?
He left.
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman, give me a second. He's in my office. I don't know why he's having an
Oh, maybe
issue.
he's there. Oh, there, Mr. He has your name.
Yeah, I don't know why. Give me a video.
Okay. Close.
Okay, sorry about that. I'm back.
There he is.
Good evening. Do you solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give shall be truthful?
I do.
Please state your name and affiliation to this application.
Jose, Jose, Gennaro, Gennaro, and I'm a registered architect and planner, state of New Jersey. My office is at 193 New York Avenue in Newark, New Jersey.
And you testify before this board many times. Is your license current, sir?
Yes, it is.
You're accepted by the board. Please continue.
Mr. Gennaro, if you could take us through your plans, please.
Okay. Going to share my screen. And everyone see this?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So this is the photo of the the existing dwelling with the two adjacent homes, 47 and 43 Cassuth Street. And this is the home that it's currently a two-family and it's going to be demolished. It's an old house, it's in need of repairs. So my client decided to demolish the building and put up a new three-story, three-family home. Okay. I'm going to bring up my floor plan. This is sheet P2 of 2 that was submitted, dated May 24, 2024. Is it on now?
No.
Nope. This is where so, yeah. Everybody can see it now?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. So there's 3 levels in the house, first, second, and third floor. The first floor contains a 1-car garage, a utility room. Now, the utility room shows 2 furnaces. Typically, we put the third furnace on the attic for the third floor unit. I know that was one of the planner's question. That's why we only have 2 on that. Then behind that, we have a 2-bedroom one family, open plan for kitchen, dining, living. We have a laundry room, and we have 2 bedrooms and 1 full bathroom. The larger bedroom has a walk-in closet, and the other room has a large 8-foot long closet. Second and third floor are identical, and we're about 1,440 square feet. We have a open kitchen, dining area, and living room in the front. And we have 3 more bedrooms, a master bedroom with a walk-in closet and its own bathroom. We have a storage closet, and then we have a second bathroom and a laundry room as well.
Mr. Gennaro, what are the square
Yes.
footage of the bedrooms?
Okay, bedrooms are, give me 1 second. On the first floor, we have the smaller room is 10 by 11, and the larger room is 13 by 13.8, which is 178 square feet. On the second and third floors, they're identical. The master is 1310 by 14.6, 201 square feet. And the other 2 rooms are identical at 1010 by 12.4, or 134 square feet.
So
Okay.
do we have a rendering, Mr. Gennaro?
Yes, we do. I'll try to go to, should I go to the elevations first? Let me. Did that work?
Not yet.
Okay. I'm not sure what I'm doing wrong. I want to put the P on the elevator.
Oh. This? What do you mean it's not in here?
Oh,
Is it this?
that's it. Okay, all right. So I have now sheet P1 of 2, which also was submitted to you, and it's dated May 24, 2024. It shows you the 4 sides of the house. There was a question about the transparency. We comply with transparency on all sides. The right side, we're over 10%, the front, we're over 30%, 30.2, and then the rear, we're over 10%. The materials that we're using for the front are a combination of brick and AZEK. We have a fiberglass shingles for roofing, and we have a metal roof over the front porch. The rest of the sides, the right and the rear and the back, are vinyl sided and cement plaster at the base. Okay, so I'm gonna try to get to the rendering. Yeah, I'm not sure here. What? In fact, the rendering, the color rendering.
Where is it?
It's this. It's in here. I don't want to. There you go. Supposed to be there with the pictures.
Let me see if I can pull it up online. Do we
Yeah, I sent it to you.
Stop sharing.
Okay, thank you for that. No, it's a wrong rendering, Mr. Pelosi.
They knew two are working together.
If it helps, I can share my screen, Jose.
Yes, if you can do that, John, appreciate it.
I think I have the right one.
Yeah. Yeah, I emailed it to everybody. That's
Third
it.
time's the charm.
That's it. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Sorry about this. So
No
this
worries.
is what we envision the house to look like. You can see the colors here. It's like a beigey type of brick and the white AZEK. And the siding is going to be like a light tan color to go along with the brick. And black bronze roof over the porch and white railings and a white garage door. And you can also see here the two homes on either side of the house, the two existing homes.
Thank you, Mr. Gennaro. Mr. Chairman, I have
you.
no other questions of Mr. Gennaro.
Chair Richardson, if I may, if we could just
Yes.
use the rendering as exhibit A1.
Sure.
Thank you.
Commissioners, questions or comments? Hearing none. Next witness.
Mr. Chairman, that concludes our testimony. We submit.
In that case. Madam Secretary, any persons from the public wishing to speak?
Seeing none at this time, Chair.
In that case, I need a motion.
So move.
Moved by Commissioner Jordan,
Second.
second by Commissioner James. Roll call, Madam Secretary.
Commissioner Purdy,
Yes.
Commissioner Timmons,
Yes.
Commissioner Baez,
Present.
is that a yes?
Yes.
Okay. Commissioner Jordan,
Yes.
Commissioner De Silva,
Hay que pagar el parque a esta hora, ¿no?
Commissioner De Silva,
Absent.
Commissioner Scott Roundtree,
She's a yes.
Commissioner James,
Yes.
Co-Chair Richard,
Yes.
Chair Richard.
Sorry. Yes. Yes.
We got you,
Yes.
Roundtree. We got you. We got you.
Chair Richardson.
Yes. The application has been approved. Good luck.
Thank you very
everyone.
much.
Have a good night.
Yeah.
Thank-
All right, we're gonna skip 7 and we're gonna go to 8. And we'll come back to 7. Mr. Barry, is that you?
Yes, it is, Mr. Chair. Sorry, I lost track of which number we were on. Yes, so the 8th item on the agenda this evening is an amendment to the River Redevelopment Plan, Newark River Public Access and Redevelopment Plan. This is the 7th amendment to the redevelopment plan, and it's a very specific, focused amendment that's intended to alleviate an issue for a proposed development located in the Ballantyne Brewery mixed-use district in the plan. That area is the more industrial part of Ferry Street where the old Ballantyne Brewery complex is located. It very specifically encompasses a group of properties right there. And the amendment to the plan changes the parking placement regulations. There had been a limitation on having garage frontage and access on Ferry Street. There's a proposed redevelopment project that is working through different discussions with the city that would include grocery store and some other mixed-use elements, and based on the topography and design of the property in question that they're looking at, it really makes sense to have the garage access on Ferry Street. So in order to facilitate what is a desired redevelopment project, the amendment to the plan eliminates that restriction on parking garage access on Ferry Street, and then includes some language that requires maintaining sufficient sidewalk width and using architectural elements to help screen the garage at street level and integrate it into the overall development. So that's all that is part of this amendment to the plan. It doesn't change any of the overall goals, objectives, and principles of the redevelopment plan. Doesn't inhibit its consistency that's been established over the years with the master plan, and continues to support the redevelopment of older industrial properties in the neighborhood, which are all consistent with the master plan's goals. So with that, I take any questions the board may have.
Commissioners, any questions or comments?
I have a question.
Co-Chair Witcher.
Thank you, Chair. Mr. Barry, is there a drawing or some kind of demonstration to show us what it is that's going to be changed?
There's a 2-paragraph text document that I can show you if you'd like. This is the sum total. Exhibit A is the amendment to the redevelopment plan. As you can see here, it strikes out the limitation prohibiting garages to have frontage on Ferry Street, and then adds a second paragraph that requires that structured parking be integrated into a mixed-use development with a minimum sidewalk width of 12 feet, and that the parking garage design elements listed elsewhere in the plan be applied in that scenario.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Commissioners, any other questions or comments?
Chair.
Commissioner James.
Mr. Barry, how does this affect traffic on Ferry Street, specifically, the flow of traffic and also any particular congestion?
Well, so the full vetting of the driveway placement and design and specific movements will happen when we get an application before the planning board. The intention is, because there's a proposed grocery store, the intention is to have the loading and access be from one side and then the customer access be from the other side of the block. So those two things aren't in conflict. And that's where the anticipated loading areas would be on the side street, with the customer access then being allowed on Ferry Street.
Okay, got it. So if an applicant came before the board with this proposal, it wouldn't necessarily be a variance. It would be allowed now, essentially, if approved.
Correct, but they'll still be responsible for the vetting that's undertaken by the Department of Engineering, Department of Traffic and Signals when it comes to the driveway placement and safe turning movements, all of those things, and any modifications that might need to happen to facilitate that.
Okay, thank you for the clarity.
Yep, you're welcome.
Thank you, Commissioner James. Commissioners, any other questions or comments? Hearing none. Any questions or comments from the public?
Seeing none at this time, Chair.
In that case, I need a motion.
Motion to approve it.
Second.
Moved by Co-Chair Witcher, second by Commissioner Jordan. Roll call, Madam Secretary.
Commissioner Baez?
Yes.
Commissioner Timmons?
Yes.
Commissioner De Silva?
Yes.
Commissioner Purdy?
Yes.
Commissioner Scott Roundtree?
She's a yes.
Commissioner Jordan?
Yes.
Commissioner James?
Yes.
Co-Chair Richard?
Yes.
Chair Richardson?
Yes. The amendment has been approved.
Thank you.
Let's go back to the last item, which is CPB 24-54, which is 222-238 Bloomfield Avenue. Mr. Sauer.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Members of the board, I believe we are still waiting for my team to.
So, Mr. Sauter, can you just list them out to me? Because I have participants trying to raise their hand at the same time, so.
Okay, Marat Mutlu,
Okay.
Michaela McGuire,
Okay.
John McDonough,
You should be.
Nick Palufo, Daniel Spiegel,
You said a Nick.
Peluffo.
You have an Andrew Vicicio? I think he's an engineer.
Yeah.
Okay.
You bring enough people?
We got to testify. We need to put testimony on the record.
Just don't jump up and down and shout.
Well, I'll do my best, Chairman. Do my best.
Okay, so that's all I have. Do you see everybody, Mr. Sauter, or is there somewhere else? I don't see the other names you said.
Let me see here. I got Michaela, I got Andrew, Daniel. I have Marat, John McDonough as well.
Yes, he's already on here.
Okay, there he is. Thank you very much. Chairman, members of the board, I greatly appreciate you taking the time for us this evening, and I know we're on the back end, so we'll do our best to be quick. But you haven't seen the application already. Once again, we are asking to do something a bit different than what the norm is. So I am eager to present to you today a seven-story building at 222 Bloomfield Avenue. This is the corner of Lake Street and Bloomfield Avenue. It's near and dear to my heart because I grew up in that area playing baseball with some good folks in the community there. This particular property, dating back some time, was formerly a bus depot station. That bus depot has been gone and the property has been demolished for a few decades at this point. There's been little development in the area, but there has been some. We'll see as we look at this project, rather than a typical three-family that's been built in this area, we've seen some larger properties being built, some 6-unit buildings, some 8-unit buildings. And here, with the change in the city's master plan, we took the opportunity to build or at least propose a 7-story building that will be one of the larger buildings in the area, but also change the dynamic to Bloomfield Avenue and be a very new, refreshed look for a very important commercial corridor here in the city of Newark. That being said, this 7-story building will be consisting of 148 residential units, 51 parking spaces, amenity spaces, as well as retail space on the ground floor. We make for some good use of this particular area, in our opinion. And we believe this will dramatically change the landscape there, as well as provide folks in the community in this neighborhood who have been homeowners for quite some time, a significant increase in their property values, as well as a significant increase to the aesthetics on this particular corner, which right now typically we would have hot dog trucks parked on what's supposed to be a sidewalk and a vacant lot, a pretty large vacant lot that oftentimes over the years would be full of debris, right across the street from a park that has been taken care of extremely well over its lifetime. It is right across the street from one of the nation's biggest parks, where we all come to learn and love the cherry blossoms to be the largest back and forth between the largest and the second largest in the United States. You'll be able to view that with this approval from a rooftop, which were not previously able to do. This is something that we would typically see in the downtown area being proposed in our neighborhood, dead smack in the middle of our neighborhood, which would really bring about change to a needing commercial corridor that over the last several years has become a bit more robust with the various parades and things that take place there. So you can imagine the desire for an increase in the aesthetic conditions of this particular area. The team that is here is one that is familiar to the board and the city. The KS group is looking to build this building on Bloomfield Avenue. And our cast of professionals, Marat Mutlu, who is working to change the dynamic in the city and overall aesthetics. John McDonough, our planner, who is perhaps the most well-noted planner that we've utilized here in the city and has the most knowledge in Stonefield engineering, that has significant experience when it comes to the city of Newark and the intricacies of which you've all been worried about over the last several years. That being said, I would like to bring on Michaela McGuire, who is our engineer. She will provide for us testimony in regard to the technical aspects of this particular property. Before I do, I just would like to know we are in receipt of the city's planners report, engineering, as well as water and sewer reports, and plan to comply with them and have whatever discussions we need to have to get this over the finish line and get this where folks need it to be. So, Michaela.
Good evening.
Yes, good evening. Do you solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give shall be truthful?
Yes, I do.
Thank you. Please state your name and affiliation for the record.
My name is Michaela McGuire, last name spelled Maguire. I'm a project manager at Stonefield Engineering and Design, located at 92 Park Ave in Rutherford, New Jersey. I'm a licensed professional engineer in the state of New Jersey. My license is in good standing. I received my Bachelor of Science in Civil Engineering from the University of Delaware. I have about 7 years experience in land use development in New Jersey, and I've been accepted as an expert in front of multiple boards across the state, including this board.
You're accepted by the board. Please continue.
Thank you.
Thank you, Michaela. You were the principal engineer on this project, is that correct?
Yes, I am.
Can you go over the technical aspects of this project and the site plan, please?
Yes, so I'm going to share the site plan set that was submitted as part of this application. I'm going to start with the first sheet C1, which is the cover sheet, and I'm just going to zoom in here to the aerial map and tax and zoning map. Can everyone see my screen?
Yes.
Okay. So the site in question is located at 222 to 238 Bloomfield Avenue, also known as Block 540, lots 1.06, 1.07, and 1.08. The lot area is 31,909 square feet, or 0.73 acres, and the site is located within the Community Commercial District, or the C2 zone. The properties to the west is the Branch Brook Park, as mentioned. That is to the south and north of Bloomfield Avenue, and it's across from Lake Street to the west. To the north, across Bloomfield Avenue, is also located in the Community Commercial, or C2 zone, and it's a mix of commercial uses. The properties to the east, across Highland Avenue, is also located in that same C2 zone, and again is commercial uses. And then the properties to the south, shown in green on the screen, is located in the R3 residential zone, and it is mostly 3-story townhomes. The property has 3 different frontages, as mentioned. So the Lake Street frontage to the west is about 200 feet. The Bloomfield Avenue frontage to the north is about 265 feet. I do want to note Bloomfield Ave is a county route, so we do agree to obtain any approvals as needed from the county. And then to the east is Highland Avenue, which is about 130 linear feet. And I do want to note Highland.
Can you zoom in a little bit more, please?
Yes, I can. I can zoom into this aerial. I do want to note that Highland Avenue is a one-way street traveling in the northern direction. As you can see from this aerial, the site is currently vacant. It is mostly overgrown and in need of reconstruction. The site does have a grade change as you move from Highland Avenue down to Lake Street. So it does drop from about 122 feet along Highland Avenue to about 116 feet along Lake Street, which we did utilize when we were designing our parking on site. There is no stormwater infrastructure currently on site. And I do want to note that there are no existing street trees as you go along the three frontages either. So I'm going to move to sheet C4, which again is in our submitted site plan set. It is the site plan first floor, and again, sheet C4. And I'm going to zoom into the site plan. So as mentioned, we are proposing a 6-story mixed-use building. The use is conditionally permitted in this zone. We're proposing a total of 148 dwelling units, and the building footprint is about 29,236 square feet. We are seeking relief for the building coverage. 80% is the maximum permitted, and we're at about 91.6. However, I do want to note with the setbacks from the planning review letter, there is no rear yard on site, so we are subject to the front and side yard setback requirements. We are meeting the front yard setback requirements on all three frontages. However, we are seeking relief for the side yard setbacks, where 0 feet is the minimum and maximum per this zone. We are proposing the building to be set back along the southern and western sides of the building, anywhere between 3.8 and 10 feet. So we are seeking relief for that side yard setback. But I do want to note, if we were to meet those side yards, we would be further increasing the building coverage relief we're seeking. For the impervious coverage on site, we're proposing about 96.9% coverage with impervious. So we are seeking relief where 85% is required. I do want to note that we are not including the proposed green roof in this coverage calculation. And if we were, we would be compliant with that 85% impervious coverage requirement. The building height we're proposing is compliant with what is permitted in this zone. We are proposing a 6-story, 75-foot building. I do want to note, since it was mentioned in the planning letter regarding the stories, based off of our analysis of the definitions, we did consider the lower parking level of basement, which was not considered a story. However, if we do call this building a 7-story building, we are still compliant with the building height, where 8 stories and 96 feet is the maximum, which we're well under. As mentioned, this use is a conditional use. When we are meeting all of those conditional use requirements, we're meeting the density requirement. In addition, we're meeting the green roof requirement, where 65% is required, which we are proposing about an 8,000 square foot green roof on top of this building. We're also meeting the outdoor amenity area requirement of the conditional uses. For the parking, we are proposing a total of 51 parking spaces on site. That is in combination of 2 different parking levels. So we are proposing a driveway on Bloomfield Avenue to the upper level parking, and a driveway on Lake Street to the lower level parking. So as you come on Lake Street and come into the driveway, you're going to ramp down to the lower level parking, where there's 30 parking spaces proposed. Per the technical review meeting we had with the city, we did agree to limit this driveway to right in, right out movements. For the driveway along Bloomfield Avenue, you will ramp up to the upper parking level, where we have 21 spaces proposed. Similarly, we did agree at the technical review meeting to, again, limit this driveway to right in, right out. In addition, we did meet with the county for those movements. We are also proposing 4 ADA spaces within the parking area, as well as 8 EV spaces per the state requirement. Within the engineering review letter, there was a comment regarding the parking space width, which we can agree to increase the parking spaces next to a wall to 9 feet to comply. In addition, there's a comment regarding a turnaround area in the lower parking level, which again, we can agree to comply with. We are seeking relief for the driveway width requirement. 20 feet is the min and max for residential use, and 24 feet is the min and max for a commercial use. The driveway along Lake Street, we're proposing at 24 feet, and the driveway along Bloomfield, we're proposing at 20 feet. The trash is proposed to be picked up via private hauler along Highland Avenue, which will be brought out by property management during off-peak times. In addition, as part of the technical review meeting we had with the city, we discussed proposing a loading zone along Highland Avenue. This would be for any loading or move in, move out that would be needed for this building. We agree to work with the city on the specifics of the location and size, but we do anticipate smaller box trucks to utilize this area. We are proposing to reconstruct all 3 frontages for the sidewalk and curbing and to make everything ADA accessible and compliant. We're also proposing to reconstruct the 2 access ramps at each intersection. There was also a comment in the engineering letter regarding restriping the intersection of Bloomfield and Lake Street for those crosswalks, which we again agree to comply with. There is an existing retaining wall along the southern and western property line along the adjacent to the residential uses. We are proposing to maintain this retaining wall. The applicant does agree to have a structural engineer review the ability to reutilize this retaining wall, as well as have them submit an SOE or a statement of excavation as needed for building permits. Additionally, we discussed at the technical review meeting buffering from our property to the adjacent residential sites, and we did agree to add fencing along that southern and western property line, again, adjacent to the residential properties. From a stormwater perspective, we're a major development per the city requirements. Therefore, we're proposing an underground detention basin underneath the lower parking level to meet the city requirements for a major development. We are capturing the entirety of the roof runoff, as well as any of the sidewalks on site. The stormwater is proposed to connect into the existing 18-inch combined storm and sewer main that's within Lake Street. We are also proposing the sanitary connection into, again, the existing 18-inch main within Lake Street as well. The remainder of the utilities are connected via Bloomfield Avenue, and we do agree to work with the department's water and sewer regarding any of those connections. The lighting on site is proposed to be LED downward-facing fixtures to provide safe access for pedestrians and vehicles. We're proposing a series of wall-mounted fixtures along the building for the sidewalks, as well as lighting inside for the parking areas per the city standards. There was a comment in the engineering review letter regarding providing wall-mounted lights for the sidewalk to the south and west of the building, which we can agree to comply with. There's also a comment regarding analyzing the existing light poles that are along the frontages and including those in our calculations, which again, we agree to comply with. There's also a comment in the planning letter regarding the architectural light fixtures, adding those to the retail doorway, as well as any of the residential units on the ground floor, which we do agree to comply with. We are seeking relief for the maximum illumination level. So for pedestrian walkways, there's a minimum of 0.5 and a maximum of 2.5. We do want to meet that minimum of 0.5 to make sure that we are providing safe access along these walkways. In turn, that means we are seeking relief for the maximum of 4.7 foot candles along the front sidewalks. From a landscaping perspective, we're proposing 5 street trees along Lake Street, 7 street trees along Bloomfield Avenue, and then 4 street trees along Highland Avenue. We did note in the planning review letter that 8 trees are required on Bloomfield instead of 7. So we do agree to look to find another area to include an 8th street tree in order to meet that requirement. We are showing the site triangles on the landscaping plan, and we have been working with the city's tree superintendent to confirm a species of tree that we can propose within this frontage that isn't going to obstruct a driver's sight distance. With that, we did review the planning, engineering, and water and sewer letters that we received and we do agree to work with the city professionals to comply with any of the comments. Happy to answer any questions as needed.
So Tropicana got his hand up.
It does.
All right, let's get, you're still on the oath, sir.
Sorry. Oh, all right, so I don't need to be sworn in?
No, you've been sworn in.
Ms. McGuire, in the engineering department's report to the board dated August 6th, 2024, page 2, under item 3, existing conditions plan. I know you provide some testimony regarding the retaining wall that encroaches over the property line to the south with lot 1.09. In the engineer's report, we asked what easements, if any, exist to allow it to remain where it is, what impact the proposed development will have on it. In other words, will the property owner of lot 109 be required to relocate the existing retaining wall back onto their own property? So can you answer that? Who owns that wall? What easements exist? And what's impact the proposed development will have on it?
So based on our review of the survey we received, there are no easements or restrictions regarding that retaining wall. It does fall in between the property line of both properties, so it is unclear who owns it. And again, there's no easements or agreements, but as part of this development, we do agree to review the condition of that retaining wall to see if it is suitable to remain for this development. And if a retaining wall did need to be proposed, we would be proposing it within our property.
All right, would you be coordinating with the adjoining property owner for things like
Correct.
easements, temporary or otherwise?
Correct.
All right, second question. Page 2, item 3, existing conditions plan, Roman numeral 2. Applicant shall provide testimony to the board as to what is meant by the words bottom of soil and top of soil that is noted on both the existing conditions plan and the survey. Is it a pile of dirt or an open excavation? Either way, the existing conditions plan and the survey shall be revised to show additional existing spot elevations and grade contours and half-foot increments around the labeled bottom of soil and top of soil. Can you clarify what is meant on the survey by bottom of soil, top of soil? Is that an open excavation, pile of dirt? What is it?
Based off of our site visits, it's not an open excavation. It may have just been a typo on the survey itself, but we do agree to update it and make it more clear what is existing there, but there is no open excavation.
Page 2, item 3, existing conditions plan, Roman numeral 3. Applicant and property owner shall provide testimony to the board as to who owns the sanitary vents that are shown at the edge of the right-of-ways for Highland Avenue and Lake Street, and should they belong to the applicant property owner, what purpose do they serve, since the cover sheet on the site plans note the subject lots to be in flood zone X, areas to be outside of the 0.2% annual chance floodplain, 500-year flood zone. Can you clarify?
Based off of the survey, it is unclear who owns these. There's no easements or restrictions for them. But we do agree to work with the water and sewer department for removing those vents as needed.
All right. Two more questions. Again, page 5 of the engineering report, item 5, Roman numeral 13. Applicant shall provide testimony to the board as to what loading zone areas shall be provided for the tenants of the 148 dwelling units. Should none be proposed, then the applicant shall need a design waiver variance from section 41(7)(6-1), table 7.4 of the Newark zoning land use regulations. Can you provide testimony if a loading zone area will be provided for the tenants?
Yeah, so what was discussed at the technical review meeting was proposing a loading zone along Highland Avenue. We would likely be proposing around a 30-foot loading zone that would be for any loading or any move in, move out, as well as garbage pickup, which would be rolled out to that area. And again, we do agree to work with your department for the specific location and size, as well as run vehicle circulations to confirm feasibility, but we would be proposing it along Highland Avenue.
All right. And last question. should an item page 5, item 5, Roman numeral 14, should an on-site loading zone be provided? I guess not. Option for revised plans show location dimensions. So you're not proposing, even for the commercial use, right? It's a mixed use. Are you proposing any on-site loading zones for the commercial use
Nothing on site. It would just be the loading zone within Highland Avenue.
at the curbside?
Correct.
And that would be located to comply with setback distances from street intersections? signal-
Yes.
And you will be willing to meet with the Division of Traffic and Signals to discuss this issue further?
Yes.
All right. Otherwise, you can comply with all the other comments in the engineer's report to the board dated August 6th, 2024.
Yes, we can.
No further questions. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chafkate. Commissioners, questions or comments?
I
Hearing
got a comment, Chairman.
Commissioner Baez.
Yeah, going back to this project, there's a couple of issues in there. It's kind of bothered me a little bit. And it also going to bother the community a little bit. First of all, Chair, it's what's that, 51 parking lot and 160, 150 apartment? Is that what it is, right? That's first, right?
So 148 units and 51 parking spaces. 8 of those are EV parking spaces, which I think, Michaela, you could do the math for me there on what that equates to in terms of how we actually look at that. And I would like for you to place for the record that there is no parking requirement and that we are seeking no parking relief on this site. Is that correct, Michaela?
Correct.
Okay. But second of all, I'm gonna have to say something. This little corner there, I'm right at the corner from there. For 42 years living in the North Ward. That little specific corner right there, you mentioned that you're gonna have 8 trees on the outside on Bloomfield Avenue side. Is that right?
Correct, along the Bloomfield Avenue frontage.
Right. Okay. So I have a little issues with that because this is what we're doing, Dominican parade, Puerto Rican parade. We're doing every year like 4 or 5 different parade, and exactly that little corner, which is going to be right up front of the building. That's where we always do this stage. However, I believe in that by creating this project, it's going to be an issue because we talk about 15 to 20,000 people that we get in this little corner right there every year. So it's a lot of partying. I'm scared of it there. When we do this parade and all those trees and everything is going to be going down because it's a lot of party first of all. Everybody's partying in the parade, moving around things, I'm afraid that it's going to be damaging to those trees. And it's also going to be a problem because the front of this building is going to be an entrance by Bloomfield Avenue. And all those people, we talk about 20 to 15,000 people, especially in the Dominican parade, we park it right in the little corner. And the stage is always there. So, Chair, I don't know, it's up to you, but I'm kind of a little confused in there. And I don't want like one of those residents to live there to get hurt while we're doing that parade there because we're doing it for 25 years, exactly the same spot. But if somebody can understand that.
Michaela, if we, Mr. Commissioner, which we greatly appreciate the concern. During the technical review, these things were discussed. And there was a discussion over the type of trees that would be planted there, understanding that the city has a very robust plan when it comes to the usage of trees and to create the foliage. But we do realize that this is right across the street from one of the nation's largest municipal parks, and that we are creating a pretty large green roof here. If it is to your purview, we can forego the trees or do something like planter boxes that may create more safety for those individuals during the Dominican Day Parade. But we have been clear with the city and in the technical review that the trees that will be utilized is something that we all need to sit down and, sit with an arbiter, I believe you call them, to make sure we use the right type of tree. So Michaela, can you give a little bit more detail in reference to the trees there?
It must be a
Yes.
little heavy and a little high tree, a little heavy trees, because really if it's small, it's gonna be teared down when those activities.
Yeah, so we, based off the technical review meeting, have been in coordination with the city's tree superintendent or the arborist to discuss the street trees we are proposing along the 3 frontages. We do want to meet the requirement. Visually, we want to have these trees along the frontage, especially since we are across from this park. But we do want to make sure what we're proposing is safe, both for drivers exiting, as well as for any sort of activity and pedestrian activity that would happen here. So we do agree to work with the city's tree superintendent, Ryan Metz, to confirm what species we will be proposing along all 3 frontages.
And Michaela, can you put in your professional opinion, if there is a large stage, because we do know that these parades that at the intersection of Bloomfield Avenue and Lake Street, there is a large stage that is put up there for performances, and there are thousands of people several times a year in this area traversing this intersection, as well as when it comes to just individuals going in and out of the park, right? There's a lot of children, small children, right? You got your T-ball there, you got your from T-ball all the way up to semi-professional baseball being played there. Do you have any professional opinion as to this building going there and having any safety concern for those people who will be traversing that intersection once this building is built?
I don't know.
Okay.
I have no safety concerns regarding the way we've designed the sidewalks and the building. We are proposing wider sidewalks, larger than the minimum, as well as instead of tree pits, we are proposing a longer landscape area for those where we're proposing the street trees. I think that does avoid having pedestrians be walking right along the curb line when there is a buffer of landscaping there. So we're really trying to keep the pedestrians in that sidewalk that we're proposing and not have them walking basically right into those trees or right along that curb line. So
Mr. Souter, I'm a little confused. Ms. McGuire, are you testifying as a traffic engineer as well?
I am not. I'm a site civil engineer.
Okay.
I'm talking about pedestrians walking.
Right. And can you, Michaela, just speak on the sidewalks and what their current conditions are? Because I believe right now they really are limited to no sidewalks that are currently there, given the amount of people that are there now versus what will happen when this sidewalk is completely built out. Can you just explain what you believe will be the difference there in terms of safety for those thousands of people?
Yeah, so the existing sidewalks are in fairly poor condition, as well as I believe they are around 4 to 5 feet in width along Bloomfield, which again, we are widening, if I zoom in here, to about 10.4 feet along Bloomfield Avenue. So we are definitely improving the existing condition of one. They are in poor condition and we're making more room for pedestrians in that area.
So in theory, having a wider sidewalk once the building is built, when these people come into this area, it will be safer for those people?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you for the information on there too. I just wanted to make sure that we favor this community. I don't want nobody taking hurt and things like that. And again, hey, I'm very happy. This is pretty much a bigger building. I like that because I believe it's 20% affordable housing in there, and also a big resident building, which is new in Bloomfield Avenue. I'm happy with it. But at the meantime, I'm kind of disappointed about this parade now. I don't want in the future that we're going to do those parade there and they're trying to stop us doing the parade there because that building is there. I'm afraid. I just gotta let you know, and I'm very clear.
I understand that, and especially as a resident. But my daughter plays in the T-ball league. My other daughter plays in the softball league right there in that park. I grew up playing in that park, so your concern is greatly noted. I just wanted you to know that we've taken that into consideration, and we have no objection as the owner of the building to the parade, right? It's part of the character and fabric of this community. And don't see any objections towards that. If anything, this building will help make it a little bit more of a vibrant scenario for the parade, in our opinion. So thank you for that. But we have looked at many of those concerns as we've gone about developing this particular project.
All right. Thank you for your information. Good luck.
Commissioners, any other questions or comments for the engineer? Hearing none, next witness.
Thank you. With that, I would like to call our traffic engineer, Mr. Vishnu. I'm sorry.
Good evening. Do you solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give this board shall be truthful?
Yes, I do.
Thank you. Please state your name and affiliation for the record.
Andrew Vischio. I'll spell my last name. It's V as in Victor, I-S-C-H-I-O. I'm an engineer with Stonefield Engineering and Design, located at 92 Park Avenue in Rutherford, New Jersey.
Mr. Chairman, Mr. Vischio has given testimony before this board, so it's like your license is still active.
My license is active and in good standing. To clarify, I'm a licensed professional engineer in the state of New Jersey.
You're accepted by the board. Please continue.
Thank you, Andrew. You've gone over this particular site plan.
I have, yes.
And you visited the site yourself?
I have.
Can you talk about the potential traffic impact to adding 148 units with 51 parking spaces to this? And what, if any, other considerations were taken into place when you went out into this and reviewed this?
Absolutely. So I'm going to begin by sharing my screen. I've prepared an aerial exhibit to help orient the board. This exhibit should be popping up any moment now. Could I get confirmation that everyone can see it?
Yes.
Okay, fantastic. So before I jump into the details of this exhibit, I just want to highlight the benefits of the application from a traffic perspective. The most important aspect, in my opinion, of the application is the safety of the driveways as we are currently proposing them. Both driveways are right in, right out only, which is the safest configuration you could have for a driveway. Fully understand how busy Bloomfield Avenue and Lake Street can be. And we worked with city professionals and county professionals to design our driveways. Number two is we are providing off-street parking where none is required, which I think is a huge benefit to the neighborhood. And number three, we are reconstructing sidewalk along the entire site frontage and also restriping crosswalks at the Bloomfield Avenue and Lake Street intersection. So moving along to this aerial exhibit, this is an aerial that was taken in 2004. I'm going to zoom in on the subject property here, which is highlighted in yellow. The main piece of data that I want to focus on in this exhibit is just how transit rich our environment is. We are a 5-minute walk from the Bloomfield Avenue light rail station. And there are bus stops on both sides of Bloomfield Avenue that serve 4 different routes that provide access to many centers of occupation. We are, of course, immediately adjacent to one of the best amenities a resident could ask for in Branch Brook Park. And there is pedestrian access directly to the park across Lake Street near the Roberto Clemente statue. Again, access is proposed via one right-in, right driveway along Lake Street, right here as my cursor is hovering over, and one right-in, right-out driveway along Bloomfield Avenue, approximately here. Again, these two parking areas are on separate floors, which was done to maximize how much parking we could provide. It's far more efficient to have them separate like that. Moving along to the traffic that might be generated by the site. We calculated the number of vehicles that we anticipate going in and out of the site using industry standard methods, specifically the Institute of Transportation Engineers Trip Generation Manual. We anticipate during the very busiest peak hours, during your morning and evening rush hour, about one car entering or exiting the site every other minute. And again, that's divided over two driveways. So fewer than 30 total trips during the busiest hour. That number is important because the Institute of Transportation Engineers establishes a threshold of 50 total trips as the number of vehicular activity that could impact the surrounding roadway network, and we are below that threshold. There's also approximately 1,000 square feet of retail proposed on the ground floor. We anticipate that retail space would have a lot of synergy with the residents in the building and pedestrians who exist today and walk along Bloomfield Avenue. Again, although not required, the site proposes 51 parking spaces, whereas none are required. I want to emphasize that we do feel that this is a sufficient amount of parking for the proposed development because of just how convenient transit is in this area. When you take a look at census data near the Bloomfield Avenue and Park Avenue light rail stops, approximately 42% of all workers use means other than single passenger vehicles to commute to work. So there is a lot of public transportation usage, carpooling, cycling, walking, ride share, and even working from home. So transit usage is already high, and we anticipate that our residents will continue that trend. So in conclusion, the site access is as safe and intuitive as could possibly be proposed. The site would not generate a significant amount of traffic or change the way the adjacent roadway network operates. And again, although not required, we are providing a sufficient amount of parking for what we feel the demand will be for prospective tenants. And with that, I would be happy to answer any questions.
Okay, Richardson, if I may, Mr. Sauter, if we could just mark the aerial exhibit as A1.
Yes, we can mark that A1.
Thank you.
Commissioners, any questions or comments?
I'd have a question.
Co-chair with you.
Thank you, Chair. Sir, you mentioned some stats about transit usage. From where are you pulling that data?
Absolutely. That's the United States Census Bureau.
Okay, so it's not Newark or New Jersey specific.
Oh, no, I should clarify that we use the census data for the census tracts that are closest to our site. And we also focused on the census tracts that are a little bit to the south near the Park Avenue light rail station. So generally in this corridor that I'm hovering my cursor over, because of the similarities and the density of the residences and proximity to transit. So The statistics that I cited are absolutely site specific to Newark and this area.
Thank you.
How far is that light rail from this proposed property?
It's a 5-minute walk, approximately 1,200 feet.
Okay. Commissioners, any other questions or comments?
Yeah, Chair. Again, I just have a question. The parking lot, did you have an exit coming out to Lake Street over there?
We do. We have access on Lake Street.
To exit from the building?
Correct. We have right in, right out access on Lake Street. Or we are proposing, I should rephrase.
All right, thank you.
I have a question.
Commissioner James.
What times did you conduct the traffic study? Did you do any during rush hour or during morning traffic, et cetera?
Yeah, so for the report that we submitted to the city, we just took a look at trip generation, but we actually went a step further after we had a pre-application meeting with the county, and we conducted traffic counts at the intersection of Bloomfield Avenue and Lake Street for a typical weekday between the hours of 7 a.m. and 9 a.m. and 4 p.m. to 7 p.m. And then we took the highest peak hour and then analyzed how that intersection operates today. So I would characterize that assessment for the level of trip generation that we're anticipating as exceeding what the typical requirements would be in this case.
Got it. So just for clarity purposes, you had to submit this to the county board or the county traffic department, or I'm not clear on that.
Yeah, our conversation with the county engineer, as Michaela mentioned, we will have to make application to the county. Their engineer, David Antonio, inquired on whether or not we had prepared a capacity analysis for this intersection. And based on that request, we have prepared that. We have not submitted it to the county as of yet, but it is prepared. As you would expect with the relatively low trip generation of the site, we're not seeing any major changes with how this intersection operates.
And you did submit it to the city traffic department.
What was submitted to the traffic department was a traffic and parking assessment report that detailed our findings with respect to trip generation and parking numbers, not specifically the capacity analysis. We have no issues whatsoever with submitting any correspondence that we send to the county, also to the city.
Got it. Okay, thank you.
I have one follow-up question to Commissioner James's questions. So what time of year did you do this study? Was it in the summertime, the wintertime? Was school in, school out?
The counts were conducted, if I'm not mistaken, 2 or 3 weeks ago, very recently. So fall of this year, and schools were in session.
Thank you. Commissioners, any other questions or comments? Hearing none. Next witness.
Thank you. With that, I'd like to call Murat Mutlu, the architect.
Good evening.
Good evening. Do you solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give this board shall be truthful?
Yes.
Thank you. Please state your name and affiliation for the record.
My name is Murat Mutlu. I'm the principal of Inno Architecture. We're the architects for the project, working for the client. And I'm a licensed architect in the state of New Jersey and have appeared in front of this board in the past.
Is your license current, sir?
Yes, sir.
You're accepted by the board. Please continue.
Thank you.
Thank you, Murad. You're the architect for this and prepared the renderings here and layout?
Yes, yes,
Can you go over that in detail, please?
sure. Allow me to share my screen. So as the previous witnesses had mentioned, we're proposing a mixed-use building along the park with 148 units. This is our cover sheet with a view from the park on Lake Street. The site is sort of surrounded by three streets: Lake Street, Bloomfield Avenue, and Island Avenue. It is sort of close proximity to the Bloomfield Avenue light rail station, which is on the other side of the park. It has been it's a vacant site, and we are going to be developing it with this project. With sort of the main concept was to really extend the experience of the park, the greenery, and that lifestyle onto into the building and on the building roofscape, which will also be part of the city's overall sort of architecture and sort of landmark. And this is also partly to satisfy conditional use requirements to allow for the additional density and height as permitted in the C2 zoning district. So the project has, so the residential entrance is on Lake Street. We do have a double high entrance on Lake Street. We do meet the ground floor height requirement for the lobby, but other parts of the ground level has sort of heights decreasing from the permitted or required 14 feet to 12 feet due to the topography changes. We have two parking entrances. A lower garage is accessed from Lake Street, and then the upper garage is accessed from Bloomfield Avenue. And we do have a retail space at the intersection of Bloomfield and Highland Avenue. It will be located at that corner that I'm highlighting with my cursor. We have some sort of townhouse units that are accessed, could be accessed from the street level and also from within the building. And then the project has multiple levels of outdoor living spaces or balconies and terraces to really create the park as an amenity to our residents where they could enjoy the park from their terraces within their building. And I'll go over the floor plan. So this is the site has sort of a sloping geometry topography from Highland to Lake Street. There's about a sort of a one floor level elevation change. So we're utilizing that to create these two-level parking instead of having ramps within the building, which creates inefficiencies. So Lake Street, we have sort of a right in and then right out parking layout, so that we have 30 parking spaces and then 20 micro-mobility parking spaces within the lower garage. And the residential sort of pedestrian access would be from Lake Street as well along the same frontage. And on the upper level, we have the second level garage, the upper garage, which are disconnected, not connected, which is accessed from Bloomfield Avenue with a right in and a right out sort of circulation. And retail is at the corner with 1,100 square feet approximately. We have some apartments on this level, and so there's open to below spaces that shows where the double height spaces for the lobby and the amenity spaces. The building is, we're following the geometry of the lot, which is an assemblage of multiple lots, triangular and sort of rectangular geometries. We're tying them into this sort of curvilinear floor plate to sort of maximize or create the most efficient layout as possible without creating inefficiencies or most areas. As you can see, there's some outdoor spaces being created with the sort of floor plate projecting or recessing every other floor. On the top floor, we are proposing this rooftop garden. With the conditional use, there is a requirement for 100 square feet of outdoor space per resident on the site. So that means 14,800 square feet of required outdoor space. We're proposing about over 12,000 square feet common, not private, common rooftop shared garden on the rooftop level. And then our private terraces total are 12,000 square feet about. And then we do have about 3,000 square feet open space on the ground level. So the total, what we submitted was we just stated the common areas in the application, which makes about 15,000 square, about over 15,000 square feet of common outdoor space, which meets the requirement. Plus, we have 12,000 square feet of private terraces on site. Just a view of that sort of rooftop garden with green spaces, paver areas, and then we do have screened mechanical sort of section that would be sort of safely secured, and the residents would not have access to it. And the screening would sort of prevent units to be visible from the street or from this garden level. I'll present the building elevations. As you can see, there is an elevation change along Bloomfield Avenue. This is our sort of upper level garage access. There is a transformer room within the building. Because of these garage entrances, transformer room, and the topography changes, the transparency requirement or what is provided is less than what is permitted, but it's due to these sort of site conditions that we couldn't work around. And you can see the sort of green scape on the roof level and the double height residential lobby and amenity spaces being presented. The facade has this synthetic stucco material with sort of a light sort of beige sand tone to its sort of earthish and sort of green elements with it to mimic or be close to sort of the park experience. And I will end it with this rendering, which is a view from the park with the lake suite facade. And I'll be happy to answer any questions the board may have.
Commissioners, questions or comments?
I have a question.
Co-chair with you.
Thank you, Chair. Mr. Mutlu, can you describe the townhouses that are shown, I guess, to the right of the rendering where the cars are parked in front? What's going on there?
Sure, it'll be, these units will have, there is a corridor within the building, so the residents can access these units from the units, or we also have planters and sort of private patios that they could access these units from outside as well. So we wanted to create this neighborhood feeling that sort of would mimic the experience of single family homes that are sort of next to us. So we want to create a similar, urban fabric to these single family homes in terms of access.
You may not be able to answer, but are those rentals? Will they be for purchase?
I think they're rentals. They're rentals.
Did you hear that, co-chair? The rentals.
I heard and I said boo.
Okay. So I have a couple questions. How many 1 bedrooms, 2 bedrooms, studios, 3 bedrooms? What's the breakdown? What's the size of the bedrooms? Give us some detail.
We have 15 studios, which makes about 10% in the building. They're about, average is about 450 square feet. We have some that are bigger and some that are smaller. We have 99 1-bedroom units. That makes about 66% in the building. And we have some that are over 800 square feet, some in the 700 square feet range, but average is about 750 square feet for the 1-bed units. And we have 24 2-beds, which makes 16%. They're in the 900 square feet range. And then we have 10 3-bedroom units with average 1,200 square feet. The bedrooms are typically in the range of 10 by 12, over 100 square feet each. Code minimum is 70 square feet, but we're over 100 square feet typically per bedroom.
Commissioners, any other questions or comments?
Yeah, real quick question. Uh,
Mr. James.
Mr. Mutlu, could you show the aerial rendering? It pretty much depicted the park. Oh, yeah, that.
That's what.
Yeah. So that's perfect. So just from aesthetics, it's humongous, and in my personal opinion, it just looks totally out of character for that neighborhood. So I guess my only question I'm going to pose is, I'm sure there's been some community meetings considering, how this is going to change the entire landscape of that particular area. Is that, am I being accurate, or has there been any community meetings to discuss this particular project, or no? Because this is a huge project, and granted, it's a beautiful project, but when you look at this particular rendering, and obviously anyone in Newark, the area well, there's tons of events in that particular part of Branchbrook Park, and it's a gateway for the most part for most of us. My mother actually doesn't live too far from there, but I'm just considering just how it deterres from the character of the other residential homes in that particular neighborhood. So I guess maybe council, you may be better equipped to answer my question, but has there been any meetings with the community pertaining to this development project, or?
There have not been large community meetings in reference to this. There's been some smaller discussions with individuals, but I would like to just note, if you will, that this would be similar to the Motley's property right down the street in terms of size. So the property on the corner of 2nd Avenue and Lake Street, those buildings right there, this would be similar to that. And not much taller than the other larger multifamilies down the street. So there is a newer multifamily 4 doors down from here, that's taller than what we're used to seeing in that area. But then in this picture right here, if you look to the bottom right-hand corner, that development, we don't think too much about it, right? But that sits on the corner of 2nd Avenue, and Lake. The new building will be similar in size and scope to that. So it won't be totally out of shape, out of play. But then there's also just the reality that we're living with, that nothing's been on this corner in decades, right? So whatever you put there in theory is going to create something new that will seem out of place. But we are below what our allowable, density, if you will, would be for this particular property.
So council, based on that testimony, is there a reason why you haven't had larger community scale meetings, or I'm just trying to?
I think we got the notice. Typically, we would like to do a community meeting once we get our notice for the hearing. In this scenario, the timing between us getting notice and actually putting notices out there and stuff, there just wasn't enough time. Chairman, I think Commissioner Roundtree has her hand raised, as well as Commissioner De Silva.
Thank you, Mrs. Hyde.
Thank you.
All right, Richard.
Okay, are you ready? So I did hear Commissioner James ask about the community meetings. And you said that no, there had not been any, but it was similar to a project that was already constructed. Is that what you just said, sir?
No, I was saying the scale, like there was a question on the scaling. So right down the street, there's a newer building.
I got that part, but did I hear Commissioner James ask about community meetings or community?
Yes, he did.
And your answer was no. Is that correct?
Correct.
All right. I'm just asking, so are you planning to have any?
Yes.
Okay. I missed that part.
But for the timing issue, we would have had a larger community meeting. There are several groups in the area that we believe we need to, just in being good neighbors, continue to have conversations with. We don't
Absolutely.
believe the project would necessarily change once we're able to engage with them. As we've discussed this project throughout time, one of the main issues that has repeatedly come up is the scale of the project, not due to the size of the building per se, but due to the parking issues in the area. Which I think we all know the parking issues in this particular neighborhood are what they are. We put testimony on to discuss the traffic issue, if you will. But in every project, there's going to be some sort of trade-off that we look at when we go to put something in place here. And looking at this project and being a member of this particular community my entire life, so I know the one commissioner talked about the 42. It's been 44 and some change for me in this neighborhood. And what I, just like to pose is that this will bring us over, 28 to 29 affordable units of different scale into this particular neighborhood, which if we built to the scale that was already there, we would not be able to get, right? So I understand that the concern around parking. There is a greater concern in our city over amount of units and affordability and just people being able to live somewhere that is a decent place for them to live. This will bring into a community, I believe, a much welcomed facelift, but also provide significant amount of housing to folks that is desperately needed in the area, while also providing a product that will bring folks back into the community who want to be here. So, there's some trade-off. It is bigger than what folks are used to, but we believe that trade-off should be welcomed here. So we're going to go and have those conversations still, because we want to be good neighbors. We have commercial space here that we would like for a community organization or group to go into at some point.
That's right.
So, we will continue to do our outreach, and there will be larger meetings held in reference to this project.
Thank you very much, Mr. Souter.
Chairman, you're muted.
Commissioner De Silva, you had your hand up?
I did. So I see you're providing 51 parking spaces, and it's 148 residential units. How are these parking spaces designated? Are they rented out? What do you plan? What's the plan with the parking spaces? Because 51 only for 148 units, some of them studios, 1 bedrooms, 2 bedrooms, 3 bedrooms. How do you designate the parking?
Good question.
It would be on a first come, first served basis as folks come into the building. But I would like to note that national averages suggest that folks are buying less cars. The population that we're looking at going into this building, when this is largely studio and 1 bedrooms, that population typically is not having a vehicle these days. I think of my 18-year-old son who lives in this particular neighborhood, who we're still trying to encourage to get his license these days. Hopefully when he graduates college and moves back, he won't come into my house in the neighborhood, and he'll have this type of option. But he would rather take the light rail, which he is very familiar with. The folks who are already in that community utilize the light rail and subway significantly here, and there are bus stops all around this area. So we believe that will alleviate the parking issue significantly due to the new amount of residents that will be here.
Mr. De Silva?
That's it. Thank you.
Okay. Commissioners, any other questions or comments?
Not a commissioner, secretary, chair, but I just wanted to clear up some exhibits because some photos were submitted, but they're a little different. These shown today. So I have exhibit A2 as a rendering with 3 photos. I have exhibit A3 as an aerial map site view. I have exhibit A4 as an aerial perspective site view, and exhibit A5 as an aerial perspective building collage.
Yes.
Thank you, Madam
Other
Secretary.
kinds of.
We will mark them accordingly and submit
Thank you.
them for your records.
That's all, Chair.
Okay. All right. Are there any questions or comments from the public?
We have a lot. But
Mr. Chairman, we still do have our planner.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I forgot Mr. McDonough. He's here so much. Let's get him sworn in, Mr. Beck.
He's not on screen yet, Chair Richardson. Mr. McDonough, are you with us? Mr. Souter?
I'm going to reach out to him and see if he's having an issue. He got kicked out. Chris, I think he's trying to get back in right now.
He's on. Okay.
Sorry about that, everyone.
Yes, good evening, Mr. McDonough. Do you solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give this board shall be truthful?
Yes, I do.
Thank you. Please state your name and your affiliation for the record.
Sure thing. Hi there, everyone. My name is John McDonough. That's spelled MC, capital DONOUGH, and I am the project planner.
You may continue. You're accepted by the board.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Take it away, Calvin.
Yes, please.
Okay. So you have a good predicate of testimony before you that we're dealing with a site here that is along Branch Brook Park, which is not only a neighborhood asset, not only a city asset, but a national asset as well. It is good planning to locate people by such assets. We see this throughout the country and we see this throughout the city as well. I'd like, Mr. Chairman, to highlight for the record 2 photographs that we took of the subject property just today, just to put an exclamation point on the point that I'm about to make here. The first is a view, and Calvin, is this A1 for the record?
No, this would be A6.
A6 for the record. Simply two exhibits, a view of the subject property, which is sort of this L-shaped testimony that L-shaped site that you heard through Miguela's testimony. Again, aligned along the park. You can see the beautiful park, which is starting to come into fall foliage. Again, a vacant lot that is going to anchor the corner here with the positive redevelopment that the applicant is looking to do. So right off the bat, we not only have a site here that is going to line the park, which is consistent with good planning, but also anchor the neighborhood with a signature building that will bookend the rest of the block. So we think that's good planning. And then switching around with a view of the subject property looking to the south. Again, you see the L-shaped piece of property looking down towards the downtown. We've got athletic fields on the other side as well. So we're getting to more active land use here. So you have a combination of both active and passive land use from a park standpoint immediately adjacent to the subject site. That is spot on with the planning goal for healthy and livable communities, again, to put people by the park. So just switching the view back to the first frame of A6, we are here in the C2 Community Commercial District where the use is permitted and conditionally permitted, no relief related to the conditional use criteria. The height conforms, the density conforms, there's no parking relief whatsoever necessary. And that being said, you also heard Andrew's testimony about the abundance of mass transit in the area as well, and the fact that the applicant is providing parking here, notwithstanding the fact that it is not required in the C2 zone district. The relief is relatively minimal here. We're looking at building coverage relief and lot coverage relief. But again, as you heard through Michaela's testimony, if we were to apply the green roof standard or coverage, we would actually comply with the coverage standard and hit that 85% mark that the applicant is asking the board to move on. Side yard setback, building coverage, and lot coverage are the three primary bulk reliefs that the applicant is asking the board to move on. The rest are predominantly design related, which all meet a standard of reasonableness and appropriateness related to landscaping, related to lighting, related to loading, and also to some transparency and the location of the front entrance. All of that is mitigated and offset by the substantial project positives that you heard with respect to the testimony that was before me. In terms of the project benefits, we're going to reconcile all of the relief the applicant is seeking under the flexible balancing test, whereby the benefits of the application as a whole would substantially outweigh any detriments. On the positive side here, we have the promotion of the general welfare, again, underscoring the point that it is good planning to put people by parks and advancing that fundamental planning goal for healthy and livable communities. Purpose G, to provide for a variety of uses in appropriate locations. As you just heard through Murat's testimony, we're going to provide a nice diversified mix of unit types here, again, according to the needs of all New Jersey citizens. Certainly advancing Purpose I, the promotion of a desirable visual environment with an accent building, with a signature building. Again, another beautiful building by Murat and this applicant team that will continue this positive transformation of the city. Lastly, the advancement of Purpose M, which is our planning goal for the efficient use of land. Take a site that is clearly underutilized, revitalize it, put it back to productive use, is spot on with that planning goal for efficient use of land. I think I will also sprinkle in there Purpose H, the promotion of the free flow of traffic, falling back on Andrew's testimony that the concentrated access points would provide for a safer and more efficient traffic benefit associated with this site as well. Counterbalancing that, bundling all of the relief together, this is not overdevelopment of the site, and relief can be granted without any substantially adverse impacts to the public. It will flow, function, and operate safely and efficiently without any substantial impairment to the intent and purpose of the C2 Community Commercial District. Again, it's a conforming use, overall conforming mass and scale. We're not asking for excessive height or density or floor area here. So I think the applicant has done a good job of working within the confines of the higher tiers of zoning controls and really is asking for minimal, reasonable relief related to parking, space sides, landscaping, some illumination, and the ground floor transparency. I think we'll fold them all together, looking at the benefits of the application as a whole, substantially outweighing any detriments. With that said, I think the applicant has put forth a good, solid body of testimony for the board to move favorably on this application. And with that, I'll stop share, I'll hit pause, and offer up for any direct or redirect.
Commissioners, any questions or comments for Mr. McDonough? Hearing none. Cal, Mr. Souter, do you have anything else you'd like to add?
No, I would like to, well, before we go into the public, can we just take a few minutes break? Because I got a feeling we're going to be here for a while.
I would say no. No, it's okay with me. I just, it's fine.
So let's take 10-minute time check.
8:42, Chair.
All right, 10 minutes,
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
8:52.
8:52, be back.
Recording stopped. Recording in progress.
Time check. We all set? Everybody's back?
8:52, yes, Chair.
All right, let's continue. Where are we now? I think we're going to
Comments, public comments?
Chair, if you don't mind, before we go on live, yes, I just like to add that I know the area for a long time. So this area in 2014, still do. It has a lot of contamination. Okay, because that's why they can never build in there because there was a lot of contamination in there. So in 2014, they came and cleaned up half of the side, half of the property. I'd just like to know if they're gonna clean out the other half because I believe there's a lot of contamination in it. And I know for fact there's a lot of contamination.
Yeah, in order for us to build, we have to get the approvals from the state from a clean site perspective. LSRP has been out to the site, so it is ready to be built on under certain restrictions, and we fully plan to comply with those restrictions from the state. But we wouldn't be able to put people there if there were contaminants that would not allow us to. So we do know what was there before. We're aware of what that prior contamination was, but the site has been found to be safe for human living, and we will comply with everything that the state requires. You're on mute.
Yeah, but thank you. Just so you know, I know you and I know you're my friend. We know each other for a long time. But make sure they do it right, man. Make sure they still do it right because I don't want nobody from my community, actually our community, to come and complain and things like that. And then they're gonna blame it on us. Then we come back to you, man. We'll come to you over. We're gonna put your team.
Well, I'll tell you this, Commissioner. At that point in time, Lord willing, I hope I'm still living down the street, and I welcome them to knock on my door. Because the last thing I would want is a member of our community to get sick over this site. So that is something that I would take seriously myself. But I am confident, given the requirements that are necessary to build here in New Jersey, that we will build here and people, it will bring a lot of joy to our community. And, as someone who is as committed to our community as you are, I know that as much as it's difficult to see change when it comes, for the last 30 some odd years, you've been committed with others in your organizations and changing that community, and bringing those things, right? The Dominican Day Parade, the Puerto Rican Day Parade didn't always used to be as big as it is now, right? We have real community members to thank for that. You have community buildings on Bloomfield Avenue that have come to play because of those folks. So we know we have a community that is very much in touch with what is happening there and committed to seeing change and grow. And this is the first major change in this community that I think will be well received once it's there, as scary as it may seem right now.
Another question, it's going to be 20% affordable housing, I believe so, because 15%, 15 and up, 15 building apartment and up is supposed
It
to
will
be 20.
be at least 28 affordable units on site. And that would be between 40 and 80% of AMI.
Another question, when we talk about affordable housing, 20%, and I believe maybe you can answer me that question, but is that included voucher for Section 8 and stuff like that?
It depends on the individual applicant, and there are very clear housing discrimination, fair housing laws that we can't remotely skirt. And have no desire to do so. So some folks will come with Section 8 vouchers that will pay that. I mean, sometimes Section 8 vouchers will get you into something that's more than on that AMI spectrum. So because you can get Section 8, I believe, up to 120% of AMI. So some folks may come in and qualify with Section 8, and they will be welcome. But these these 28, 29 units would go into the city's affordable housing. I guess there's a database through the city now. These units will be put there, and we believe that they will, be filled up quickly.
All right, my brother. Thank you very much, man.
Okay, Madam Secretary, let's get to the public and remind them they'll have 3 minutes to speak.
Yes, I'm gonna call.
Mr. Beck, pardon me?
I'm sorry, I'm gonna call the attorney first. 'Cause
Well, we can't restrict the attorney.
Good evening. Robert J. DeGroot. I am an attorney. My office is at 60 Park Place in Newark, and I represent Miss Paris, who is the owner of property at 152 Highland Avenue in the city of Newark, a multi-family residence. I'd like to ask some questions of Ms. McGuire first, if I could.
I would note that my experts are not up for cross-examination. So if there's a question, I welcome him to put it out there, and I will direct the appropriate person to answer.
I think I have standing to ask some questions. They're not going to be aggressive. I just have some reasonable questions.
I am not opposing you asking questions. I'm just saying that you can ask your question and I will have the appropriate person respond to you.
That's fine. I would like to know, how deep is the excavation going to be on the site?
Kayla, is that one for you?
Yes. So the site itself ranges from about 116 feet in elevation to 122 feet in elevation. And the lowest level of the parking field is located about 113. So it's going to be ranging from about 3 feet of excavation to about 9 or 10 feet of excavation.
Have you prepared an engineering plan for lateral support of my client's property when you excavate?
As part of the preliminary design, we haven't, but the city does have requirements for building permits that we would need to submit
An SOE plan.
a statement of excavation, or an SOE.
Okay. Have you excavated at all on the retaining walls, which would be at my client's property? How deep those walls are in the site?
So the current walls are about 6 to 8 feet tall, and essentially the parking facility next to those walls will be at that same elevation, because the subject property is on the high side of those walls, whereas the property that you were discussing is on the low side. So we won't necessarily be going any further down. We'll just be building right next to that retaining wall at essentially a very similar elevation.
My question wasn't the elevation, it was the below grade area. Do you know how far that wall goes below grade?
Right now, we do not. The existing wall, we don't have any information on that.
All right. Ms. McGuire, I would commend you on a very well prepared and well presented position, and I have to give you your due. Can you tell us what the light would be like that face my client's residence?
So right now, we're not proposing any wall packs along the southern side of the building. We will be adding some light fixtures along the west facade of the building, which would be basically in the rear of the subject of the property that you're talking about. But we do agree to meet the Newark standard requirements for the light levels permitted at the property line, which I believe is 0.5 foot candles, which is very unimpactful for any neighbors. 0.5 is very small of a light level.
Okay. Would you agree that my client, she has a 3-story building, which I think is 36 feet in height, would have no view from the side of the building looking north? Is that accurate to say?
I'm not sure I understand the question.
If you stood on the perimeter of my client's building facing north at the 20-foot level, what would a person standing there see looking northbound if this building were erected?
So I believe.
So, Mikhail, sorry to interrupt. Our building is set back from the property line that is shared by 10 feet on the ground floor. And then there's another setback of 15 feet as you go up. Well, 10 feet. So there's total of 20 feet setback. And if you look, I'm looking at the street view on Google, there are only small property representing. So I don't think we have detrimental impact.
Mr. Mutlow, is the facade of the building the same on its entire perimeter?
Yes, it's a uniform, homogeneous looking. Whatever you saw in the rendering, it wraps up on the entire.
Ms. McGuire, are you aware of the ROUX Associates report of the petroleum contamination on the location?
I am aware of it. I have not personally read through it. I'm not the LSRP for the project.
All right. Has an LSRP completed all the work with regard to
Kayla,
the DEP?
I'm gonna ask my professionals to only testify to what you guys have done.
Okay.
I will note that there was an LSRP brought out to the site, and we will be complying with the findings of the LSRP.
Okay. The RU report indicates that the contamination goes to 25 feet. Will you be excavating that 25 feet?
Michaela, I don't want to mix testimony with such a technical piece there, right? So I want you to answer his question, but I want to make sure that you don't connect it to the LSRP report and what's required by the LSRP when they go to clean up the site.
So I think the answer would really be similar to what you said before, is we will meet any of the DEP requirements when it comes to the LSRP or any excavation.
Right. With regard to the traffic, I would like to ask your traffic person, will there be parking spots lost on either Highland or Lake due to this construction?
There will be no parking spaces lost on Highland. In fact, there will be a curb cut that is existing near the stop bar of the intersection that will be closed. However, we are working with the city on establishing a loading zone that might be located on Highland Avenue. So that might affect the parking count. As far as Bloomfield Avenue, there's one existing curb cut. And there would be one curb cut proposed. So no net change there.
I need you to put your name on the record before you speak. And who was just speaking?
Oh, I apologize. Andrew Vicio, traffic engineer for the application.
Andrew, Calvin Souter, attorney for the applicant here. Can you just clarify that potential loading zone, was that something that was requested by the city during the technical review?
That is correct.
That is not something that we proposed.
That is correct.
So if we lose a parking space, it would be at the request of the city?
That is correct.
Thank you.
Mr. Vicio, will there be two lanes into one ingress and one egress into the entrance and exit of both of the parking areas?
Yes.
Will there be any kind of barrier traffic control device that permits one car to exit at a time?
The geometry of the driveway only facilitates one lane in and out.
One lane in and so it's the same lane in and out? Is that what it is?
No, it's a very conventional driveway, 24 feet wide. There is one lane in and one lane out.
Now, is there any kind of safety device for cars coming in or out? For example, leaving, would there be a sound or other device warning pedestrians?
There would not be, nor would there need to be.
Have you computed the line of vision, someone exiting the parking lots?
There are sight lines provided on the submitted site plan.
I would like to note for the record that if that was something that the commission wanted us to do, as we know in the zoning board, that is something that is typically asked for, whether it's an arm or a light or some type of sound signal, we would have no problem complying with that condition of approval.
Ms. McGuire, again, have you done any soil samples to determine what's necessary to do the excavation, i.e. blasting or that kind of construction technique?
Blasting?
Is there rock formation which would be broken up by blasting? Or
So
hammer?
all of that analysis would need to be within the SOE that, again, we would need to submit for building permits for this preliminary design. We do not have that information.
And is there a set time when the construction work would start and finish? Ms. McGuire, if you can answer that.
I don't have the answer to that.
Okay. Is the building being built out of a steel skeleton?
The answer is no. It's out of concrete on the podium and then wood frame above.
Who's speaking? You
This is
gotta
architect.
put your name on the record.
Murad Mutlu, I'm the project architect. I think the council should address to specific people as he's asking questions or address our attorney.
How high would the concrete structure come up, sir?
Architect Murad speaking, the concrete structure will come up 3 levels from Lake Street, and then wood frame would be 4 stories at the top.
And then above 3 levels, it would be wood framed?
As planned, yes. That's how the financial model is being made, yes.
All right. Thank you. That's all the questions I have. Be well.
Thanks, sir. Okay, let's get down to public. Let's get them in and let them know they have 3 minutes to speak. Mr. Beck, let's start to get them sworn in.
Who is out first, Madam Secretary?
She should be joining us. Alanya H. Mr. or Miss Alanya, can you come off of mute and turn on your camera if possible? Okay, she left. Okay. Miss Teresa Ruiz, if you could come off of mute and there we are.
Thank you, Carissa. Good evening, everyone, and to all the members. Thank you for your patience in this. I sit here. I'm sorry. Go ahead. I have to get sworn in, right, or something?
Yeah, if we could. Good evening,
No
Senator. Would you please raise your right hand?
Okay, hold on. Let me just set this up properly. Yep.
Thank you. Do you solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give this board shall be truthful?
Yes, I saw.
Thank you. Please state your name and your address for the record.
Teresa Ruiz, 653 Clifton Avenue. And for the record, I am on as a homeowner, a longtime resident, mother, and community advocate.
Thank you.
Perfect, Ms. Ruiz, you have 3 minutes.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair, and thank you to the members for the robust questions. When I hear words like someone presenting that the neighborhood will be filled with joy with an aesthetic building that doesn't fit any corner of the North Ward in this area, I'm filled with consternation and kind of in awe that we would have this meeting in place before any community meeting was had. There was an attorney before I've had the opportunity to stand here and talk on behalf of a homeowner. The fact that there aren't community meetings prior to even engaging in such a robust process is counterproductive to homeowners and to residents. And the photographs that were presented as exhibits, which was compelling in and of itself, pictures that you utilized to put forth this project, if you look down the corridor of Bloomfield Avenue, you could see cars stacked up in line on Bloomfield Avenue. And if you looked down Lake Street in Highland, you could see already that there wasn't any remote spaces for parking. 148 units with the most, I zoned out at some point, all puns intended. I know there's like 10% studios and 99 something else. And it seems like the bulk are gonna be multi-bedroom units, 148 with 51 parking spots, not even meeting the half. And yes, it sits at one of the best corridors that there are on Bloomfield Avenue for transportation. But as someone who lives here, I can tell you that people who move into the neighborhood would at least have one car per unit or every other new unit. As we're having this meeting, neighbors from Highland Avenue are sending photographs because there are already 2 layers of double parked cars on Highland, which is a one-way presenting itself onto Bloomfield Avenue. Doesn't make any sense. Last night on my travels home, before coming to the house, I went to go visit my mother. My husband had to sit in someone else's driveway when my daughter and I went out to visit with her on the porch because there is no parking in the neighborhood. The building situated on the corner of 2nd Avenue and Lake Street, a building that predates my existence in this world, and I just turned 50 years old, has been there. And if we haven't noticed, a whole portion of parking across from the Motley building was removed because traffic, the corridor could not accommodate traffic coming in on both sides. A state-of-the-art park facility that hosts over 1,000 kids crossing over Lake Street and Bloomfield Avenue, a bridge on county property that no parking is allowed on, places already that cannot saturize us. I heard from a ton of experts on this, didn't hear about school systems and what potentially families are moving into this area. I'm sorry, I'm timeout. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next.
Hello.
Yes, good evening. Do you solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give this board shall be truthful?
I do.
Thank you. Please state your name and address for the record.
My name is Lily Kadenpour, and I'm at 52 Berkeley Avenue in Newark, New Jersey. I didn't expect to go so soon. Can I start commenting?
You have 3 minutes.
All right. So first of all, Lily Kadenpour. I live here in the Forest Hill, and I also work at Rutgers Newark. I'm a professor there in the Department of Earth and Environmental Sciences. And the reason I say that I'm a professor in science is because I care about facts. And I think like our feelings matter. And I think the fear of something new is very real. But the reality is that when we build more parking, the traffic only gets worse. I think there needs to be enforcement of traffic regulations. Double parking shouldn't be allowed. But I think that by building a building with tons and tons of parking, that's not going to be the solution to our issues. I want to talk about why I moved into this neighborhood and why I'm excited about this development. So I'm excited for there to be new commercial things I can use. I really hope there's a coffee shop. I would love to be able to use the coffee shop. That'd be great. I'm excited about expanding housing in Newark. We know housing is limited and we need more of it. I'm excited that there's no longer going to be a creepy lot on that corner that I don't like to walk by, especially at night. I'm excited for there to be more people in the area. And I'm glad that this is a project that's not being led by some big multinational corporation, but that involves people that are local to the area. That's really important, I think. And I'm glad that there's not going to be a bunch of parking. And I'm really excited for there to be more people taking transit. The reason I moved into this neighborhood, that we bought a house in this neighborhood, is because it's so close to transit. And every day I take the light rail to work, to and from work in downtown Newark, and I love it. I actively love taking the train. I love walking through that park to take the train. And I'm excited for more people to do it. Particularly because when things aren't busy, when there aren't a lot of people taking the train, when there aren't a lot of people walking through the park at night, that's when it feels scarier. If there's more residents actively taking transit, it's only better for the community. I'm so excited about the future of Newark. I'm so excited about being here for the long term. And I'm really, really excited about this project.
Thank you. Madam Secretary?
Yes, we have someone joining us, Joleno. Should be on Tuesday. There we are. Joleno, if you could come off of mute and turn your camera on if you can.
Okay. Can you hear me?
Yes, good evening. Do you solemnly swear the testimony about to give this board shall be truthful?
Yes.
Thank you. Please state your name and your address for the record.
My name is Jolino Dos Santos. I'm an owner of 319 Lake Street.
Mr. Joleno, can you just spell your last name, please?
Last name is D as in David, O, S as in Sam, A, N, T, O, S, Dos Santos.
Thank you. You have 3 minutes.
Okay, I'm excited for the building, but my concern is 148 apartments with 51 parking space. That doesn't add it up because we don't have a supermarket closed. We don't have a drugstore closed. And I have a tenants right here on Lake Street on the summer. They cannot park the car. And behind, that's a Highland Avenue. People parking double parked over there, honking all night long. And I believe this building is amazing. Nice project. I think so. We have to get I believe so, improvement to the area, to the neighborhood get better. But I think so. The building has to be smaller with more parking space compare. If you put a 3-bedroom apartment, that's minimum 3 cars in a garage. 1-bedroom apartment, a minimum 1 car. 2-bedroom apartment is a family of 2, is a 2 cars. That's one of my concerns because we already doesn't have a parking in the area. And I don't know what to say. I agreed to build. I think so. It's an amazing project, but I believe so. You guys should do something better with the numbers for the parking space. That's it.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
One thing you got to keep in mind that this applicant is not asking for parking variance, so it's not necessarily in our purview to require them to put more parking into the project. Go ahead.
Next we have Marie White. If you could come off of mute and turn your camera on, please. Miss White, if you could come off of mute and turn your camera on, please. Okay, I'm gonna move on to the next. Okay.
Yes.
Good evening, Ms. White. Do you solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give this board shall be truthful?
Yes, I swear.
Thank you. Could you please state your name and address for the record?
Yes, my name is Marie White and I live 138 Highland Avenue.
Thank you, Ms. White. You have 3 minutes.
Okay. Overall, I think that it is a great idea, but it is a bad location. The area is already highly populated with extreme amount of vehicles. It's heavy traffic on Highland Avenue. I am a homeowner and I also work here in Newark Airport. And my elderly tenant has a handicap parking space right directly in front of our home. And people park in a parking spot, they park beside it, double park cars, morning, noon, night. We constantly call in reference to parking issues on the block, not only here in front of my home, but the whole Highland Avenue. It is a hassle with double parked vehicles already. You have at least 2 to 3 vehicles in each home because each home has multiple units. 148 units with 51 parking spaces is ridiculous. That's absurd. It's already a disaster. The idea of the building is a great idea, but again, wrong location for it. It just will not work. Parking is beyond a hassle in this area, and it's just it will make things even worse. It's a safety hazard, especially when it comes to vehicles coming out of this one way. EMTs, fire trucks, the garbage trucks, they can barely get through at times because vehicles are double parked. So we're building a building there with the parking already being a major issue on this block. It will not make anything better at all. Again, great idea, wrong location. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We have Renelle Frazier.
Yes, hello.
Yes, good evening. Do you solemnly swear that the testimony you're about to give this board shall be truthful?
Yes, I do.
Thank you. Please state your name and address for the record.
Okay, my name is Renelle Frazier. I am a homeowner at 118 Highland Avenue. Much like my neighbors who have already spoken, I want to just submit my comment for the committee. I'm very concerned about parking on the street. It's a disaster. You cannot leave past 6 o'clock and come back and find a parking spot. The one reprieve is maybe finding a spot around the corner on Lake Street, which I think with this will be completely gone. I want to see the area revitalized. I want to see buildings go up, but something has to give. If it's not the people who are building this building, then the city has to do something, because everyone's saying, well, we're not required to do it. Okay, but the problem is still going to exist, whether you're required to do it or not. And us living on this street are going to be the ones dealing with it. We're going to be the ones coming in after visiting a grandparent or visiting someone late at night, driving around for hours trying to find somewhere. And I'm speaking as someone who takes public transportation every day to work as well. You still need a car though. You can't get everywhere in Newark or New Jersey on public transportation, which is why so many people buy cars, because you need to be able to have flexibility to get around. And it's just not realistic. People are going to move in with their vehicles. I'm highly concerned. I don't know if there's some middle ground or area we can find. Are there zone tags that we could put if you live on this street, that if you only have a zone tag, then you can park there? Are there creative solutions that we can come up that make everybody feel good about it? I'm open, but the way it's currently planned is going to be very, very, very challenging. And like was said, most of these units are multifamily. I mean, in the unit that I'm in now, we have 3 cars just for this unit alone, and everyone double parks constantly. So adding more people who are going to have cars more than 51, where are they going to go? Where are we going to go? And that's what I like to submit. I'm hopeful that we can find a creative solution. I'm not for just blocking something, but we have to do something better than, well, we're not required, so good luck. That's not going to work. Thank you.
Thank you.
I have Chris Bernardo.
Good evening.
Yes, good evening. Do you solemnly swear the testimony about to give this board shall be truthful?
I do.
Thank you. Please state your name and address for the record.
Chris Bernardo. I'm the director of the Bloomfield Avenue Lower Broadway Business Improvement District. The address is 643-645 Mount Prospect Avenue. Good evening, Chairman Richardson and members of the board. For the record, the Bloomfield Avenue Lower Broadway Alliance sent a letter earlier asking for the vote on this application to be delayed. We have a few reasons for that. I think a lot of it has been highlighted already. Commissioner James certainly highlighted it earlier when he underscored the lack of community meetings. To be clear, we're very supportive of the project's goal, which is to maximize development around transit. We believe that Newark's light rail stations are greatly underutilized as economic development tools, but we definitely think that this is a case of too much too soon. To acknowledge Mr. Souter's statement earlier, this is a huge change for this block in this neighborhood. I don't know how you move forward with a vote tonight without requiring the developer to work with the stakeholders and to ensure that community feedback is heard and implemented. We are absolutely on the same page about the significance of this lot and this project, but we would respectfully request that the board require the developer to meet with the community and then return to the board at a later date, being able to demonstrate the broadest support possible. We think that that's in the best interest of the project, and we think it's in the best interest of the community. So for tonight, we would respectfully request that you not vote on this and that you compel the developer to come back to the community. Let's work together on something that can be more broadly accepted, and let's move forward with a project that makes sense for everyone. Thank you for your time.
Oh, thank you.
We have a few more. On your page.
Hi, good evening, everyone.
Yes, good evening.
Okay. Hi.
Good evening. Do you solemnly swear that the testimony you're about to give this board should be truthful?
Yes.
Thank you. Please state your name and address for the record.
My name is Alanya Holly. My address is 207 Lake Street. I am a 49-year resident of Lake Street, so I've been living here all my life. Just off the top, Attorney Sauter, I'm just a little disappointed in your statement in regards to the community meetings on this particular project. They are needed, and for you to state that you wouldn't mind having them, but you don't want your plans to change, is basically saying that we would be having a community meeting, wasting our time. Okay. Parking, as far as Lake Street is concerned, is of minimal. As far as Highland, minimal as well. Highland is parking 2 and 3 rows out. Lake Street has no parking. We are totally congested. And as you know, as you stated, as a community residence in this area, everything revolves around Lake Street and Park Avenue. Everything, Lake Street, Park Avenue, and Bloomfield Avenue. And to speak to your interests and your outways, you're talking about a right in and a right out. So a right in on Lake Street. Has anyone looked at the statistics of the traffic coming in from Park Avenue into Lake Street? Because if it's a right in, that means you would have to enter from Park Avenue to enter this building. Park Avenue and Lake Street is a #1 highway. We already know that. So all you have to do is look at the statistics of accidents that happen on Lake Street, Park Avenue, etc., from the top all the way down. So that would just be a mess. Okay, it's just a mess. We are not afraid of change within this community, but this building that you're building aesthetically looks like a medical building. It does not speak to the charm of this neighborhood. And you're talking about the buildings on 2nd Avenue and Lake Street. They speak to the charm of this area. Most of the buildings are brick face, old charm, wrought iron, etc. Even the new building on Lake Street fits into the charm of this neighborhood. It does not look like a big medical building that is 3/4 enclosing a residential property that's right next to it by a rendering wall. I mean, the renderings on this particular project are horrible. It looks like a hospital. And just remember one thing, Bloomfield Avenue is a commercial zone. Lake Street is not. Lake Street is not a commercial area. So as one of the residents or homeowners said on Highland Avenue, again, we're not opposed to what you want to do to bring people into this area, but this scale of this particular project It's unnecessary, it's unwarranted. Maybe you should go back to the planning board, your architectural design, and find a better way to incorporate some new revitalization as far as building into this community. And I speak on behalf of Lake Street Block Owners Association. We do not want this type of building on our block. It does not fit to our charm. Thank you so much.
No, thank you.
We have Alberto Fernandez. Alberto, if you could come off of mute and turn your camera on, please. You're still on mute, Mr. Fernandez.
Yes, good evening. Do you solemnly swear the testimony about to give this board shall be truthful?
Yes, I do.
Thank you. Please state your name and address for the record.
Hi, my name's Alberto Fernandez. I live at 136 Highland Avenue. I've been a homeowner here for 18 years. And myself and many of our neighbors feel that a building of this magnitude is not a great idea. First, again, parking. I know I'm not the first one to mention it, but if everyone's talking about it, it's definitely an issue. We have parking here, like it's been mentioned before, double parking overnight. The driveways of this building is going to take away parking from our block, Highland Avenue, from the block on Lake Street. Safety concern because of the population. Also, the parking is so bad when I work late night, and not even late, 7 p.m. I have to park after 2nd Avenue and walk 2 blocks over to my home. You know, it's normal for me now, but I can't imagine walking 2 more blocks to get home at night. So I can see a lot of people doing this. If this building comes up, that's going to affect the historic district. We're going to become a nuisance to that area. And I think this is something that has to be planned better. It has to be considered. I don't feel it should just be approved just like that. They have to take the neighbors' feelings into consideration. You know, we're happy here. It could be better, but we definitely don't want it to be worse. And that's all I can say. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
We have Michelle Butchko.
Do you have a count on approximately how many more?
We have 3 more, Chair.
Those will be the last 3. Excellent.
Okay.
Hello?
Yes, good evening.
Yeah.
Do you solemnly swear the testimony about to give shall be truthful?
I do.
Thank you. Please state your name and address for the record.
Michelle Butchko, 622 Clifton Avenue, in the Forest Hill Community Association. I'm representing as co-chair of the Historic Preservation Committee. And one of the things that was never mentioned during all of the testimony was that you're adjacent not only to Branchbrook Park, which is on the state and national register, but 1,200 homes of the Forest Hill Historic District, of which you're going to border. We are an active community association. We have had no opportunity to have a community meeting about this project. As co-chair of the Historic Preservation Committee, I get emails and phone calls all day long about this project that I didn't know anything about until very recently. I'll reiterate that I would like to ask for a delay of the vote of the planning board tonight because we do need to have community meetings. I agree that the parking, even though you're not responsible for it as a developer, apparently, is ridiculous. I'm a transit advocate also. I spent 50 years of my career in the transit industry, and I take buses and light rail every day, but I have a car. And on my end of Clifton Avenue, there's double parking from cars from other areas of Newark, from Mount Prospect Avenue, etc. I think that the development is monolithic, and someone said you're going to have a lovely green roof and you'll be able to see the cherry blossoms from the roof. That's true. But people who are watching the cherry blossoms at tree level are also going to see this monolithic building at the end of the park. Lake Street, other people have complained that there's a lot of double parking. I don't live there. However, I do know that Lake Street is an emergency evacuation street, and there have been many accidents. There's speeding issues. I attend police meetings every month, and there's always kinds of speed traps that they're setting up, and the fact that it's a really important street for emergency access is going to be compromised by this building and the lack of parking. I have a question also about the fact that the development is going to be rental only, which means without ownership, there's going to be a lot of ins and outs on moving days, which means trucks and cars and things like that. And just my final point is that aesthetically, it really doesn't fit adjacent to the two beautiful historic districts that we have, Forest Hill and Branch Brook Park. Thank you.
Well, thank you.
Chair, we have Paris Beach.
Can you mute the other?
Yes, I did.
Good night, everybody. I am the homeowner of 109.
Oh, excuse me, before we begin.
That's swearing.
No,
Sorry.
Even before we get to that, Mr. Chairman, and I guess I'll leave this to Mr. Souter. Mr. Souter, Miss Deirdre was represented by counsel. Do you object to her speaking at this particular juncture, even though she was represented by counsel of her interests?
Not at all. She's a neighbor, so there's absolutely no objection to her speaking.
Okay, and Ms. Deirdre, the only reason I raise it is because typically it's the protocol of the board, and we leave it to the attorney. So,
I understand.
Thank you very much.
But I'm also part of the community, even though I was represented by. I have lived here for a number of years.
Please
absolutely.
get sworn in first, Miss.
Yes. Do you solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give shall be truthful?
Yes.
Thank you. Please state your name and your address for the record.
Deidre B. Paris, 152-54 Highland Avenue.
Okay, you have 3 minutes to speak.
You know, and I'm part of the community, and I know the people have spoken about parking. It is really, really horrendous because I'm the last house on the block. And if I can get on my driveway, I'm lucky in the mornings because it's a lot of congestion. This building, I'm not against that they are actually beautifying and this particular area, but I think it is a project that does not fit. Also, I am very, very concerned about my property because this is a huge project. And I'm very concerned about the excavation that's going to happen, how it's going to affect my property. This is also a middle-class, Latino, Black, hardworking area. And it's going to affect a lot of people. I heard Mr. Sanders said he's been here for 42 years and he's been part of this community. But if you love this community, the first thing that you're supposed to have done was to reach out to the community, the people within this community. And he did not do that. He's put the cart before the horse, and he did not do that. And this is all that I have to say.
Thank you very much. Duly noted.
Here we have Kyle Winslow.
This is the last speaker.
We have one more after him, and that's the last one.
Okay.
Good evening, everybody.
Yes, good evening. Do you solemnly swear that the testimony about to give this board shall be truthful?
Yes, I do.
Thank you. Please state your name and address for the record.
My name is Kyle Winslow, and I live at 340 Parker Street in the Forest Hill Community Association District. Thank you to the commissioners and petitioners for their hard work and presentations. I'm sorry that I missed the technical review meeting, but I do have a few concerns. My calculation says 1 parking space for every 3 units. It's still woefully underserving the area, in spite of the national average of declining auto ownership for urban residents. I've seen that, but it's certainly not 1 for every 3 units. If the petitioners want to take a look at places, newer places in Newark, like Teachers Village and things like that, they can probably get some data on that. My official objection is that there's already a deficit of parking, as everybody has talked about, in several blocks covering Lake Street north and south of Bloomfield Avenue, Highland Street north and south of Bloomfield Avenue, Parker Street north and south of Bloomfield Avenue, Ridge Street south of Bloomfield Avenue, and probably more. I've personally observed 40 triple parked cars along Parker Street between Bloomfield Avenue and Park Avenue on a normal early morning. It probably ranges between 10 and 20 vehicles after 6 p.m. nightly, double parked and triple parked vehicles. I live on Parker Street north of 2nd Avenue, and I see people looking for parking all the way up to Abington Avenue, which is the next avenue above 2nd Avenue. It's typical by 10 p.m. at night, there are little to no parking spaces available on either side of the street. I see similar situations along Lake Street, which has parking only on one side, Highland Avenue, Ridge Street, and all the way out to Clifton Avenue. Along Clifton, has become so crowded that residents park their cars in their driveways, but with a portion of their cars blocking the sidewalk. This impedes pedestrian traffic, forcing pedestrians to sometimes cross into the street to get by them, and makes it all but impassable for wheelchairs. This is a tenuous to downright dangerous situation that the city of Newark will be liable if an incident happens in these areas. The number of proposed spaces or not proposed spaces will only add to the inconvenience and safety concerns to the residents in this neighborhood. I'm not saying that this development should solve the parking and safety issues that are brought up, but I just provide the context of how far this reaches all the way over, say, to Clifton Avenue. And I haven't looked at other places, but yeah, there's a lot, there's a parking deficit. The building is not, a community unto itself. As proposed, this building will have adverse impacts to the surrounding neighborhood. I propose that the design be amended to be in line with a lower ratio number of parking spaces, higher ratio of parking spaces per
Thank
unit.
you so much, Mr. Winslow.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Lastly, we have Mr. and Ms. Perez.
This is our last witness, Madam Secretary.
Yes.
Thank you.
Hello.
Yes. Good
Hi,
evening.
how are you?
Good evening. Do you solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give this board shall be truthful?
Yes, I do.
Thank you. Please state your name and address for the record.
Attorney Anna G. Perez, 333 Clifton Avenue. Not too far from the complex. Actually born and raised in Newark, went through the public school system. I'm not like the one of the panelists who was a gentrifier looking for coffee shops. But I am an attorney who deals with the landlord-tenant court on a daily basis, and I can't explain the affordability requirements and issues that a lot of people don't seem to know. So yes, there are affordable units in that complex. Those are subject to 15 years under the low income tax credit program by the New Jersey New Jersey Financial Home Mortgage Agency. After those 15 years expire, they can be renewed or not renewed. Right now, we have 200 cases on the docket every day in Essex County Court for landlord-tenant actions because developers wait around the 15 years and then they start taking out, I guess, or taking out the tenants so that, you know, those affordable units revert back to market. And this is the truth. So, you know, Mr. Souter, I appreciate the circuses and bread. You know, the parking issue is great. In my street alone, as somebody pointed out, there is a lot of issues with parking, and this is going to get worse. And there was no consideration to that. But not only that, the parking is going to, you know, Mr. Souter says it's going to be free. I haven't seen one model lease that has parking as free. It is for the developer's advantage.
I would like to note for the
spaces.
record that I did not say that parking would be free.
You said it would be as it comes and goes, meaning
I did
that would make
not.
it even
I did not.
logically impossible.
I did not. I
You
did
did.
not say. I said it would be available on a first come,
On a
first served
first come,
basis.
first served basis, which would be
That is
logically
not free.
impossible, because how many people are going to cram in there, and what are you going to have a bloodbath, you know, by 6 o'clock when everybody gets home? That doesn't make any sense. Most of these parking spaces are rented. That affects the area too with the higher rents, because it pushes the rent up, which makes everything else around it unaffordable. As you can see from the building that was built on Lake Street, and the studios go for $2,200 a month. I mean, around the corner on 2nd Avenue in Clifton, where it's usually a drug market, the studios there go for $1,500 a month. That's pushed all the rent up. And if you can't afford it with a Section 8 voucher or some other type of subsidy, and you're just a working class family, you're not going to make it here. So it's pushing everything up. Also, the traffic is very bad. Bloomfield Avenue in itself is there's always double parking because it's a commercial district. And I love how they say that it's going to bring businesses. Well, you know, guess what? That's the commercial area. There's always been businesses there. Matter of fact, now they built a pediatrics across the street, which was a proper use for the building across from it instead of building this monstrosity. So take that into consideration when you drive up Bloomfield Avenue. Lake Street also is the corridor to 280. Thank you so much. Appreciate the time.
Thank you. Okay.
I believe that was the last.
That was the last.
I would just like to, Mr. Chairman, just note for the record, when it comes to the affordability here in the city of Newark, there was just, you know, someone put something on the record as an attorney who stated that this would be subject to HMFA regulations. I just want to be clear that this isn't the HMFA regulations. We're looking at the city of Newark's inclusionary zoning ordinance, which will require this building for as long as it is in existence until the city of Newark City Council changed the law to have those units there. Now, that being said, you know, I would like to just note to the individual who someone also alleged that they're a gentrifier and came into our neighborhood. I've lived in this community my whole life. I live in the same neighborhood. I believe you are welcome here. And despite what some people may say, I'm glad that you came and invested in our community. But I'd be remiss. I know she's here in her individual capacity, which I can appreciate. But I will always refer to her as Senator Ruiz because I believe she has earned that title. And because of the timing that we've had here, there was not a larger community meeting. But we are open and willing to, Mr. Chairman, if you are will allow us to, given everything that has happened, to adjourn the cycle to the next meeting so that we can have that community meeting and do so in good faith. You know, a lot of the concern is over the parking. And the parking is something that, unfortunately, as someone who's lived in this community for as long as I have, it's a lawlessness issue. It is not an issue with developers coming in. And I would note that we would be remiss if we didn't lean on our local precincts and ask them to start ticketing and towing folks in our community for doing this. But again, given the concern, and I can appreciate the desire for a larger community meeting, I will work with the councilman in the area, as well as with Senator Ruiz's office in its official capacity, to put that meeting together. There is a community center right on Bloomfield Avenue, right down the street. So we will endeavor to try to do it there, as well as via Zoom, as immediately as possible. And I would ask them if there are particular groups that they would like us to reach out to, that we will do so. If to put it out there to any individual people, to please let us know. But we will reach out to their offices tomorrow to arrange a date that will work for folks prior to the next meeting, so that we could come together in good faith. But again, I just like to note that what was repeatedly put on the record was a desire to allow for a certain level of lawlessness to exist in our community, which I will challenge every day of the week. But Mr. Chairman, if you will allow us to, we will adjourn until the next meeting.
No, I think that's the proper thing to do based on the concerns from the community. And, they want to have a conversation. They want to get you there and get the owners there and have a robust discussion. And then, then you come back. And I think the next meeting is November 4th, if I'm not mistaken.
Here,
Madam Secretary.
Yeah, if I may, the next meeting is November 4th, but I would strongly suggest maybe pushing it back just a little bit further because that agenda is jam-packed over the brim, but just letting you know.
Well, whenever he comes back, please mute your device. Madam Secretary, mute these people, please. There won't be any further testimony whenever Mr. Souter comes back. All the testimony has been given, and there won't be any public comments because all the public comments we've heard.
Well, there may be some testimony after the meeting is had.
Yeah, I guess what the secretary is requesting is, Mr. Souter, is it, do you anticipate after your meeting coming back and then continuing the conversation with the board? And then if you do, then the public will open it up. We'll have to open it to the public comments. And
I think that the only way Dan, I think the only I apologize for interrupting, but I won't know until after that meeting. So, and if that is the case, if we have that meeting and the plans to the building change, we will notify the planning office and ask for an adjournment to a different date, in which case we may just come and just need to put that adjournment on the record if we believe that there will be any need to open the record back up.
All right, but Madam Secretary, you were saying that it is a very full meeting on the 4th.
It is.
Okay, all right. I just wanted to flush that out with counsel to make sure that he understands the parameters that we're dealing with. And that if there is no further, if you're not going to open it up and there's no further coverage and public comment, and if the board decides at that particular juncture that they feel it's just based upon the record below, that they'll make a determination that's strictly up to the board members.
Then if it's just that simple, then we can do that on the 4th.
November.
If not,
maybe we'll do it at Latin Flavors.
Pardon me?
I was messing with Commissioner Byers.
No. I got another one.
So just for the record, we're adjourning to November 4th, preserving notices.
Yes, and if there's further discussions or comments from the public or anything that need to take place when he comes back, then he'll put another adjournment on the record and we'll get him in. And we'll get him in, we'll put him on the top of the agenda for the 4th.
I was a good thinking, Mr. Chairman, right away. I was going to ask you for adjournment anyway. Thank you.
Well, you didn't have to do that because Mr. Souter took into consideration the community's comments.
Okay. All right. So
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
The business. Are you good, Mr. Souter?
I am good. Thank you very much.
Appreciate that. And have a good night. We'll see you on the 4th.
Thank you, commissioners. I appreciate the time.
Good night, Mr. Souter.
All right, we have minutes
No,
the
we
last
don't, not this meeting, Chair.
meetings, right?
Yeah.
So, Mr. Beck, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the board. This evening, we are going to memorialize the resolutions of the October 7th approvals, and they are as follows. CPB 2107, which was 449 South Street Extension. CPB 2108, 451-453 South Street Extension. CPB 2315, 70 Broadway. CPB 2417, 50 Wilson Avenue. CPB 2445, 8183 North 9th Street, CPB 2452, 79 Rose Street, CPB 2453, 97 Rose Terrace. And this evening, at the October 21st, the board approved the Newark River Public Access and Redevelopment Plan with the 7th Amendment consistency plan. Those resolutions can be voted on and memorialized for those commissioners that voted affirmatively. Any commissioner that does not choose to, please put it on the record. Otherwise, they will be memorialized simultaneously.
Thank you, Mr. Beck. Have a good evening, and we will see everyone back here on the 4th, which I'm going to try to be on because I'm going to be in Pennsylvania working on the Harris campaign. And I'll try to get on. Can't guarantee it.
I'll see you there, Wayne.
You got it.
Okay, I'm just gonna pause the recording till the meeting is over. I'm gonna pause.
Nah, we didn't adjourn yet.
Okay.
Okay.
Recording stopped. Recording in progress.
Motion to adjourn.
Motion.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Have a good night.
Good night, everyone.
You as well. Good night, commissioners.
Now, clear from sit here that Jenny Pelosi killed Ted Allen.
Recording stopped.